Chapter 132. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Qinglin wanted to teach the other party a lesson, but he didn't dare to really kill him. He hurriedly asked the coachman to drive the carriage back to the academy, and sneaked into the woodshed from the back door to take a look. There were signs of a struggle in the woodshed, and there were even a few drops of blood on the ground. The rope was broken, and it didn't look like it was cut by a sharp weapon, but more like it was torn apart by someone. Gu Qinglin held the rope and said to Gu Qingfeng, "Second brother, look, that kid still has the strength to break the rope. I told you he's fine." Gu Qingfeng also breathed a sigh of relief. It's best that he didn't die. Whether he's that Gu Yan or not, don't casually find trouble with him in the future. You're not a child anymore, don't be as willful as before. If Big Brother finds out, he'll punish you again. I know. If you don't say anything and I don't say anything, who dares to tell Big Brother? Does he dare? Gu Qinglin glared at the coachman. The coachman hurriedly lowered his head. I don't dare. Gu Qinglin smiled proudly. All right, second brother, let's go back. Don't let it slip. Gu Qingfeng shook his head and sighed, and sat on the carriage back to the residence with his younger brother. The two of them thought that this matter was over, but early the next morning, Gu Qinglin felt a chill on the back of his head. He choked on cold water, and even fell while walking. He said sullenly, "What luck?" The two of them entered the academy together. Gu Qingfeng was slightly more studious than Gu Qinglin, and went to the teacher to hand in his homework first. Gu Qinglin looked like he was idle, and couldn't sit still as if there were nails on the stool. He went to the latrine. Just as he walked to the latrine, one of his friends from yesterday came over. That person's face was still injured, and his eyes were full of fear. Third young Master Gu, someone is looking for you." "Who's looking for me?" Gu Qinglin glanced at him. "Did you fight with someone?" That person smiled awkwardly. It's good that it was a fight. He was simply being pushed to the ground and rubbed against by someone. Gu Qinglin relied on his awe-inspiring elder brother to do whatever he wanted in all the major academies. No one dared to provoke him, so he naturally did not think that fighting with others was scary. At most, he would call a few more people and beat the other party up. Gu Qinglin wanted to see who was so arrogant as to trouble him to meet him personally. That person brought Gu Qinglin to the woodshed where they had locked up Gu Yan yesterday. Outside the woodshed, there were already people kneeling on the ground. They were all Gu Qinglin's friends who had been at the crime scene yesterday. Everyone stared at the bird's nest head with a swollen nose and swollen face. His head was crooked and his mouth was slanted. His whole body trembled. Gu Qinglin's first reaction was confusion. His second reaction was anger. These were all his people. It didn't matter if he hit them, but if others hit them, it meant that they didn't give him, Gu Qinglin, face. Who did it? He roared. Everyone wanted to say something but stopped. They looked at him sympathetically and lowered their heads, not daring to say anything. Although they usually called each other brothers, and went through fire and water together, that was under the premise that their lives were not in danger. Now that their lives were about to be lost, third young Master Gu, you're on your own now. Gu Qinglin rolled up his sleeves and said arrogantly, "Which coward is it? You don't have the guts to come out and see me, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, a white hand reached out from the woodshed and grabbed Gu Qinglin's collar. She dragged him in without any hesitation. Gu Qinglin didn't even have time to scream before he heard the door close with a bang. "You know that I'm you're If you hit me again, I'll woo." Gu Qinglin's initial clamor gradually turned into a whimper for mercy. However, no matter how much he begged, Gu Jiao did not let him go. When Gu Yan was so helpless, did this guy let Gu Yan go? Gu Yan, who didn't cause any trouble, was bullied by him. How could he, who had no reason to cause trouble, be let off? Gu Qinglin was beaten until he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. The group of scoundrels outside could feel the pain just by hearing it. They originally thought that they were pitiful, but after seeing what happened to Gu Qinglin, they realized that the girl had gone easy on them. "Why aren't you calling for help?" Gu Qinglin roared. "Calling for help? Who would dare? This girl could smash their heads with one punch. Gu Jiao beat Gu Qinglin until he couldn't even recognize his own father. Then she lifted his chin with a cold stick, forcing him to look into her cold eyes in the dark. In the future, do you still dare to touch my little brother? What little brother? Gu Qinglin's brain was about to explode. It took him a while to realize who Gu Jiao was referring to. His hair stood on end. You're that guy's sister? His name was also Gu Yan, and he also had an older sister. This time he couldn't be mistaken, right? That guy was the bastard child of his father and the Yao family. This detestable brat was also the same. My little brother almost died. You'd better experience it for yourself. Gu Jiao pressed the wooden stick against his throat. He was pressed down until he couldn't breathe. I didn't want to kill him. Gu Qinglin swore that he only wanted to teach Gu Yan a lesson. Who knew that he really almost died? Gu Jiao didn't care about this. Her little brother almost died, so he also wanted to go to hell. Gu Qinglin didn't go to the classroom after class. Gu Qingfeng searched for him for a long time, but couldn't find him. He thought of the small woodshed where Gu Qinglin locked up Gu Yan, and ran there to take a look. Sure enough, he found Gu Qinglin tied up and covered in bruises. Third brother. Third brother. Third brother. Gu Qinglin's dull eyes finally focused. He hugged Gu Qingfeng. Second brother. Second brother. Second brother. His whole body trembled so much that it scared Gu Qingfeng. You. What happened to you? Who dares to bully you? Consort Shu was their aunt. The fifth prince was their cousin. And they even had an iron-faced Yama who was a commandant in the military camp. Just based on this identity, no one dared to bully them in a small place like Qinghe Academy. But the scene in front of him was all real. Gu Qingfeng had never seen Gu Qinglin so scared. Gu Qinglin trembled for a long time before he found his voice again. It's that bastard. He's Gu Yan. He actually dared to let people beat me. I want to go back and tell Big Brother. Let Big Brother teach him a lesson. Gu Qingfeng was puzzled. He has the guts. But you were the one who locked him up first. Even if you tell Big Brother may not stand up for you. Gu Qinglin felt wronged. What's wrong with me locking him up? He's the son of that vixen. He deserves to be locked up. And I only locked him up. I didn't beat him up. Look at how his sister beat me up. Gu Qingfeng looked at his little brother carefully. He was really pitiful. His sister? The girl who grew up in the countryside? Other than her, does he have another sister? The light in the small woodshed was too dim. Gu Qinglin actually didn't see Gu Jiao's face clearly, but he heard that Gu Jiao's voice was very young, about the same age as Gu Jinyu. She should be Gu Yan's twin sister. Gu Qingfeng was puzzled. Wasn't there a rumor in the manor that the girl grew up in the countryside, was timid and afraid of trouble, and didn't even dare to return to the manor? She actually had the guts to beat Gu Qingfeng up? Doesn't she know who you are? Gu Qingfeng asked. How would I know if she knows? Gu Qinglin was beaten black and blue. How could he remember to ask her? What about your friends? Gu Qingfeng asked again. Gu Qinglin choked. Second brother, don't mention them. A bunch of useless trash. They can't even beat a country girl. Gu Qingfeng gasped. He knew his younger brother's bad friends. A few of them had some skills. How could they lose to a girl? No matter what, the other party must have beaten Gu Qinglin until he was scared. Otherwise, Gu Qinglin wouldn't really think of using his elder brother to support him. Gu Qingfeng also felt that the other party had gone too far. If she really wanted to get back at him, she could have just locked Gu Qinglin up. Why did she have to hurt him? Gu Qingfeng thought for a while and said, but if my elder brother knows that you locked someone else up first, he will definitely punish you first. Gu Qinglin clenched his fists. Let me think about how to tell my elder brother. He was scared of being beaten up by that girl. If his elder brother didn't stand up for him, he was afraid that he wouldn't dare to go to Qinghe Academy for the rest of his life. Gu Chongqing still didn't know that his younger brother had made up his mind to sue Gu Yan. He went to the Mount Qi barracks during the day and delivered the things that Gu Jiao gave him to Zhou Erzwang. He wasn't from the Mount Qi barracks and had little contact with them. Everyone was puzzled as to why he came. When they found out that he was delivering things to a small squad leader, They couldn't help but feel surprised. Deputy General Hu called Zhou Erzwang to his tent. How do you know Ergu? Zhou Erzwang expressed that he didn't know him. Deputy General Hu frowned. You don't know what he gave you personally? Do you know how long it takes to come here from the Mount Qi barracks? Zhou Erzwang was confused. I really don't know him. Deputy General Hu saw that Zhou Erzwang didn't seem to be lying, but Ergu wouldn't run errands for a small squad leader for no reason. If Zhou Erzwang didn't have a background, then the person who asked Ergu to run errands had a background. Zhou Erzwang suddenly said, "Oh, my neighbor in the countryside is quite good at studying. This time, he passed the autumn imperial examination and came to the Imperial College to study. My sister-in-law asked them to deliver the things to me." So, that student from the Imperial College got to know Ergu? Although Deputy General Hu's official position was higher than that of a military officer, he was already 40 years old. How old was Gu Changqing? Moreover, what was his background? What was Gu Changqing's background? Deputy General Hu cleared his throat and said to Zhou Erzwang, "In a few days, we will be selecting a squad leader. Do your best." This meant that he was going to promote Zhou Erzwang. Zhou Erzwang's name sounded stupid, but he wasn't stupid. He understood tacitly and said, "Rest assured, General Hu. I will do my best." "Okay, you can go now." After Gu Changqing left the barracks, he rushed back without stopping. When he passed by Chang and Main Street, he subconsciously slowed down. In the past, he would take another alley, but today he took by Shui Alley. The sky was already dark, and the autumn wind was bleak. Every family hung up lanterns. Gu Jiao was busy cooking in the kitchen, and Xiao Lulang was in the study correcting little Jing Kong's homework. Because of his failure in the exam, little Jing Kong's daily schedule after school was not only added writing practice, but also learning 6 languages. Today, he learned a nursery rhyme from the Chun state. Xiao Lulang picked out the key words in the rhyme, and asked little Jing Kong to write down each word from memory 10 times. Little Jing Kong went to the yard to practice after he finished writing, leaving teacher Xiao alone to correct his homework. Little Jing Kong's small body was curled up on a tree. His hands were holding his feet behind him. This movement was very difficult, but little Jing Kong was obviously used to this kind of discomfort. Gu Xiaoshan was carving wood at the side, and Gu Yan was lying on a rattan chair to recuperate. He was still very weak, and his face was pale. In fact, Gu Changqing had already noticed something wrong when he gave him the medicine. He might have some kind of hidden disease. Although he looked no different from a normal person, once he got sick he might die. So if he had come a little later yesterday, the other party would have. Gu Changqing frowned. He could not figure out who on earth was, and what kind of deep hatred did they have to tie up a weak young man and put him in the woodshed. Gu Changqing did not disturb anyone in the house, and left silently for the Lord Protector's mansion. Gu Qinglin's servant had been waiting for him at the gate of his yard. Seeing him come back, the servant rushed to him. "Prince! Oh no! Third young master has been bullied. Please go and see third young master." Gu Changfeng went to Gu Qinglin and Gu Qingfeng's yard. Gu Qinglin lay on the bed. He had purposely not allowed the manners doctor to treat his injuries, so that he could show his miserable state in front of his eldest brother. Gu Changqing looked at his miserable brother, and his face turned cold. "What trouble did you get into this time?" Gu Qinglin cried. "I didn't get into trouble this time. I just transferred to another school 2 days ago. What trouble can I get into, brother? Am I that immature in your eyes?" Gu Changqing was not moved at all. "If you didn't get into trouble, why did he beat you?" "How would I know?" Gu Qinglin had already made up his mind to insist that he was innocent, and that he did not even touch a finger of the other party. He was not afraid that his brother would investigate, because once his brother found out that the other party was Gu Yan, he would say that Gu Yan must have found someone to beat him up because of what happened when they were young. This reason was simply too flawless. "Where did he beat you up?" Gu Changqing asked. This could be said truthfully. Half-truths and half-lies would make it easier to convince people. Gu Qinglin choked. "The woodshed of the academy. If you don't believe me, you can go to the woodshed. There are marks all over the ground." When he heard the woodshed, Gu Changqing's eyes turned cold. Digression. There was a bug in yesterday's update, and I sorted out the young masters of the Marquis' household. Gu Changqing, heir eldest. Gu Qingfeng, second. Gu Qinglin, third, the one who bullied Baby Yan. Asterisk also, let's talk about the evaluation votes. I saw that some readers gave me 3 stars for 2 days in a row. I don't know if it's because I didn't write well, or if the system gave me 3 stars by default. If it's a system problem, please move your fingers and fill up the stars next time you vote. Thank you very much, Bao. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114865892. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 133. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Changqing hoped that it wasn't what he thought. Did she not only beat you, but also tied you up and locked you in the firewood room, not letting you out? Gu Qinglin was startled. Big brother, how did you know? Gu Changqing clenched his fists. He suppressed his boiling anger and asked, was the one who beat you a little girl? Gu Qinglin was even more dumbfounded. No way his big brother was so amazing? He could even tell that the injuries on his body were caused by a woman? At this point, what didn't Gu Changqing understand? He had guessed correctly. It was this brat who had bullied the other person's little brother first, so the other person had come to return the favor. And this brat still dared to shamelessly say that he was innocent. How did the Marquis estate raise a piece of trash like you? Gu Changqing finished speaking and casually tidied him up. Gu Qinglin was simply dumbfounded. What was going on? How did he get beaten again? Gu Qinglin, who had been beaten up, didn't realize that he had been exposed. He continued to act. Big brother, what are you doing? I was beaten because I didn't have the ability. But who told grandfather to only teach you martial arts and not me and second brother? Otherwise, I could beat them back myself. Why would I look for you? Speaking of this, Gu Changqing was even angrier. Was it because grandfather didn't teach them martial arts? It was because they couldn't endure that hardship. In the past, Gu Changqing also felt that grandfather's requirements were too strict. He could do it because he had no other choice. He was the eldest grandson of the Marquis estate. He shouldered the fate of the Marquis estate. His 2 little brothers didn't have to work so hard. But today he saw that child in the courtyard. He was only 3 or 4 years old, but he trained harder than he did when he was young. That child didn't make a sound. No one even forced him. With this comparison, Gu Changqing felt that he really was someone else's little brother. Gu Changqing looked at Gu Qinglin, his last trace of sympathy gone. Go kneel in the study. Gu Qinglin suspected that he had misheard. Big brother, what did you say? Gu Changqing said coldly. I told you to kneel in the study room. Gu Qinglin exploded. Why do you want me to kneel? I've already been beaten up to this extent, and you're still punishing me? Are you really my big brother? Gu Changqing looked at his younger brother, who not only did not repent, but also spoke arrogantly. For a moment, anger rose in his heart. When her mother passed away, her 2 younger brothers were still very young. Because they pitted them, the whole residence spoiled them, especially Gu Qinglin, who was almost spoiled beyond recognition. Over the past few years, Gu Qingfeng had slowly restrained himself. Only Gu Qinglin was still as naughty and mischievous as when he was a child. However, he was no longer a real child, and no one would easily forgive him for his mistakes. It's because I'm your big brother that I have to discipline you. Do you want to go to the study yourself, or do you want me to drag you to the study? Gu Qingfeng had been eavesdropping outside for a while. Seeing that his big brother was about to get serious, he hurriedly walked in. Big brother, third brother, stop arguing. When Gu Qinglin saw Gu Chengfeng, he suddenly felt wronged. Of his two brothers, it was obvious that his second brother was closer to him. Big brother always had endless books to study and endless martial arts to practice. Only his second brother was truly by his side. He said, "Second brother, be the judge. Big brother wants to punish me." Gu Qingfeng whispered, "Don't talk so much." When Big Brother was punishing third brother, he had already guessed what Big Brother had guessed. He had long felt that this method was not reliable. If Big Brother was so easy to fool, he would not have earned the title of Iron Face King of Hell in the military camp. Gu Qingfeng desperately tried to signal third brother with his eyes. However, Gu Qinglin was in a fit of anger and could not see anything. "Big brother, you're punishing me for a wild brat. You'll regret it. What are you going to say? Do you know who he is?" The last sentence was covered by Gu Qingfeng's hand in time, and he could not say the correct pronunciation. Gu Qingfeng was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Was third brother planning to expose Gu Yan's identity? If he told Big Brother that he had already recognized that brat as Gu Yan, it would be no different from proving that he was the one who started it. Moreover, the whole family knew that Gu Yan had a heart condition. Wasn't locking him up in a small dark room the same as asking for his life? This wasn't bullying, this was murder. Even if Gu Qinglin did not want to kill at that time, could Gu Qinglin explain himself clearly? Would Big Brother believe him? Big Brother punishing you is for your own good. Look at you, you caused trouble and still came home to speak rudely to Big Brother. Gu Qingfeng glared at Gu Qinglin, giving him 10,000 signals with his eyes. Gu Qinglin understood this time and did not say anything. Gu Qingfeng secretly sighed and said to Gu Changqing, "Big Brother, third brother did cause trouble and deserves to be punished. However, look at how badly he is injured. He has already been taught a lesson. If he is punished to kneel again, he won't be able to take it. Let him recover first." Big Brother was strict, but he still loved third brother very much. Gu Qingfeng secretly made a reassuring gesture to Gu Qinglin. Unexpectedly, before he could finish the gesture, a quarrel broke out outside the courtyard. A manservant rushed in with a hurried expression. "Third young master. Not good. Madam is here. She wants to see you. We can't stop her anymore." Gu Changqing's impression of Madame Yao was correct. Madame Yao had always been a weak woman, but now, the servants in the courtyard could not stop her. It was as if she had gone crazy and barged in. She arrived in front of Gu Qinglin's bed and ignored Gu Qingfeng and Gu Changqing in the room. She raised her hand and gave Gu Qinglin a resounding slap. Gu Qinglin was stunned by the slap. This was much more shocking than being beaten by Gu Jiao. His understanding of Gu Jiao was limited to the rumors of the servants. In the end, he had no idea what kind of person Gu Jiao was. But he understood Madame Yao too well. Madame Yao was easy to bully. Otherwise, she would not have brought Gu Yan to live in the farmstead. Don't talk about hitting him. Madame Yao did not even dare to scold him. Gu Qinglin stared at Madame Yao in disbelief. Madame Yao's eyes were too frightening. It was as if she wanted to skin Gu Qinglin alive. Gu Qinglin actually felt a trace of fear. Gu Changqing's shock was no less than his two younger brothers. He had seen Madame Yao smile like a child, and now he saw Madame Yao. He suddenly felt that he had never truly understood this stepmother of his. "Why did you hit him?" Gu Changqing asked. Madame Yao sneered, her eyes filled with tears. "Why did I hit him? As the big brother, do you not know? It doesn't matter how you target me, but why did you bully my Yan? It wasn't easy for him. It wasn't easy for him to live until today." Madame Yao had just gone to her daughter's place and found out that her son had been bullied. Neither of them were willing to tell her. She secretly asked Gu Xiaoshan and begged Gu Xiaoshan before Gu Xiaoshan told her. Gu Xiaoshan actually did not know much. He did not know who had saved Gu Yan. He only knew that Gu Yan had been in danger at the time and had almost lost his life. It had been done by someone called Gu Qinglin. Gu Jiao had also asked him what Gu Qinglin looked like and which class he was from. Madame Yao's heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. She could not imagine her own son being tied up and locked in the woodshed, struggling until his hands were covered in blood. She was a mother. Her heart would hurt. Madame Yao's tears fell down in large droplets. You don't have to acknowledge him as your younger brother. You can just treat him as a completely unrelated stranger. He has his older sister. He will not come back to fight with you. He has already hidden so far away. Why can't you let him go? Towards the end, Madame Yao was practically shouting herself hoarse. When you bullied him when he was young, I took into account that you were children. But you are not children now. Why do you still treat him like you did in the past? Don't you know that he has a heart condition? Must you kill him before you are willing to let him go? Why? Just because you hate me? What did I do wrong? I have never harmed your mother. I have never wanted to take away your father. Your mother's death has nothing to do with me. Why must you place these debts on my head? Madame Yao had never defended herself against the rumors in the outside world. She had always silently endured them. However, today, when she learned that her son had almost died at the hands of his half-brother, Madame Yao could no longer control herself. The emotions that she had accumulated over the past 10 years completely exploded at this moment. She no longer had her usual demeanor. She was like a crazy woman who could fight with her life at any moment. In the end, she was just a mother. A mother who had been separated from her daughter for more than 10 years and bitterly held on to this day by her sick son. Nothing could happen to her child. That would be taking her life. If one had to die before she could stop, then she would do it. She would kill Gu Qinglin. She would take him down with her. Madam. Gu Chongqing grabbed Madame Yao's wrist and said to Madame Yao, "You're tired. Go back to your courtyard to rest first. I will properly discipline third brother here. Someone come. Send Madame back." He gave the order. The ones that came were not rough grannies but hidden guards. The hidden guard grabbed Madame Yao's arm. "Don't hurt her," Gu Chongqing said. Yes. The hidden guard complied. No matter how irrational Madame Yao was, she knew that she could not beat a hidden guard. She turned around in a daze and allowed the hidden guard to take her soulless body out. Gu Chongqing put away the dagger that he had taken out from Madame Yao's sleeve. He turned his head and coldly looked at Gu Qinglin. Gu Qinglin's heart skipped a beat. "Big brother, listen to my explanation. I recognized him. But I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't want to kill him. I thought it wasn't him. Gu Qingfeng face-bombed. It was over. The thing he was most worried about had happened. He really could not explain it clearly. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online will be here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114862180. HTML Genius will remember this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com BQG's mobile reading website. Chapter 134. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Qingfeng wanted to explain for his younger brother, but his elder brother's aura had completely cooled down. He was so scared that he couldn't speak coherently. At this moment he really did blame Yao Shi. Why did her normally bullied appearance suddenly disappear just like that? With her making such a fuss, he couldn't cover up anything. What didn't have became something. Big brother. Gu Qingfeng began. You shut up. Gu Chongqing coldly shouted and turned to look at Gu Qinglin. Go to the ancestral hall and kneel for me. Without my orders, you're not allowed to get up. Big brother. Gu Qinglin's expression changed. Just now he was just telling him to kneel in the study. Now he was going to the ancestral hall? The ancestral hall enshrined the ancestral tablets. Normally, only those who committed unforgivable mistakes would go there as punishment. Gu Qinglin refused. I'm not going to the ancestral hall. You have to go even if you don't want to. As soon as Gu Chongqing's voice fell, he directly grabbed Gu Qinglin's collar. Gu Qinglin had already been beaten up quite badly by Gu Jiao. With his elder brother grabbing him like this, he felt that his neck almost fell off. Gu Chongqing threw him into the ancestral hall of the Marquis Fu and left 2 guards to guard. You're not allowed to give him food or water. Gu Qingfeng grabbed his elder brother's arm. Big brother, third brother's injuries are not light. Punishing him like this, aren't you afraid that he'll be bitterly disappointed? Gu Chongqing coldly said. If he's bitterly disappointed, won't others be bitterly disappointed? Gu Qingfeng argued. That brat is an outsider. Are you going to punish your own brother for an outsider? Did you forget that before mother died, she asked you to take care of me and third brother? You swore in front of mother's bed that you would not allow anyone to bully us. But look, what did you do? Gu Chongqing looked at him deeply. You also go and kneel. Gu Qingfeng was stunned. After Gu Chongqing locked his 2 younger brothers in the ancestral hall, he turned around and returned to the courtyard. In the meantime, Gu Qingfeng and Gu Qinglin's manservants came to deliver food to the 2 of them, but they were all stopped by the guards at the door. The servants had no choice but to seek help from Pine Crane Academy. What did you say? Lin and Feng, or have been locked up in the ancestral hall? Old Madame Gu had just asked someone to remove the headband, and was about to rest when she heard the news. She quickly asked the servant to comb her hair again. Gu Qinglin's personal servant said with a long face, That's right, old madam. The 2 young masters have been locked up. Third young master is still injured. I'm afraid he'll lose his life if he's locked up for a night without eating or drinking. Old Madame Gu was furious. She hurriedly asked Nanny Kai, her subordinate, to go to the ancestral hall to bring her out. Not long after, Granny Kai came to report, Old Madam, the 2 guards said that they can't release her without the heir's order. This is outrageous. Old Madame Gu slammed the table and said to Nanny Kai, Where is the heir? Call him here. The heir just went out. He's not in the residence. Nanny Kai said. Old Madame Gu thought of her precious grandson, and felt pain and anger in her heart. Among the 3 grandsons, the old duke valued his eldest grandson the most, but old Madame Gu doted on her youngest grandson the most. Gu Qinglin's unruly personality was mostly due to old Madame Gu's indulgence. I'll go there personally. The duke's residence occupied a large area. It took a quarter of an hour to walk from Pine Crane Academy to the ancestral hall. Old Madame Gu couldn't wait to walk there slowly, and asked the servants to prepare a slide pole. When she arrived at the entrance of the ancestral hall, the 2 guards on duty bowed to her. Old Madam. Old Madame Gu held Nanny Kai's arm with one hand and pointed at their noses with the other. You still recognize me? I thought you were the ones in charge of the duke's residence. Hurry up and release 2nd young master and 3rd young master. The 2 guards didn't move. Old Madame Gu's eyes were like torches. What? Are my words useless now? One of the guards said. This is the heir's order. We dare not disobey. I'm his grandmother. Old Madame Gu was so angry that she leaned back and asked the servant beside her, Where's the duke? The servant said, The duke is not in the residence either. Duke Gu had left the imperial court for so long, and his official business had piled up like a mountain. He had been busy dealing with it these few days. Old Madame Gu felt her liver hurt from anger. Then can I go in and see them? The heir had only said that no one was allowed to send food or drinks, but he didn't say that no one was allowed to visit. The 2 made way for old Madame Gu. Old Madame Gu entered the ancestral hall in a hurry. Gu Qingfeng was kneeling on the mat obediently. Gu Qinglin was too badly injured to kneel. He was half lying on the ground, looking as miserable as one could imagine. Old Madame Gu's heart throbbed in pain. She rushed over and knelt on the mat to hug her precious grandson. Lin, or what happened to you? Who hurt you like this? When Gu Qinglin saw old Madame Gu, tears welled up in his eyes. Grandmother, you have to seek justice for your grandson. Gu Qinglin told old Madame Gu about his painful experience. He knew that his grandmother doted on him and believed everything he said. Thus he spoke without thinking about logic. I didn't touch him. I didn't touch him at all. He recognized me as his 3rd brother and hated me for bullying him when he was young, so he asked his older sister to beat me up. That girl grew up in the countryside and farmed a lot. She was so strong that she didn't know how to control her strength. I took into account that she was my younger sister, so I didn't hit her. Grandmother. In the end, eldest brother punished me. Eldest brother didn't believe me. Grandmother. Ah. Gu Qinglin's tears and snot were all over his face as he cried miserably. Old Madame Gu's heart was broken. She said to the guards outside, "If you don't let me take them out today, I'll die here." The guards were in a difficult position. They couldn't disobey the heir's orders, but they couldn't let anything happen to old Madame Gu here. Fortunately, Gu Chongqing only went to deal with a small matter and returned home quickly. After hearing the news, he went to the ancestral hall. Old Madame Gu actually valued her eldest grandson. But sure, he needed to maintain the relationship between people. Gu Chongqing trained with the old duke all year round and wasn't always by old Madame Gu's side. He didn't act like a spoiled child like his younger brothers, so he wasn't as close to old Madame Gu as his younger brothers were to old Madame Gu. When old Madame Gu thought of how he treated his younger brother so cruelly, she was so angry that she wanted to punish him. "Open your eyes and see what you've done to your younger brother." Gu Chongqing said seriously, "Grandmother, it's cold in the ancestral hall. You'd better go back to Pine Crane Courtyard. Be careful not to catch a cold." Old Madame Gu gritted her teeth. "You also know that it's cold in the ancestral hall. Aren't you afraid that your brother will catch a cold? Look at how badly he's injured. Instead of taking revenge for him, you're punishing him? What kind of elder brother are you?" Gu Chongqing glanced at Gu Qinglin coldly. Gu Qinglin lowered his head guiltily, not daring to meet his elder brother's sharp gaze. Old Madame Gu said coldly, "Why are you glaring at him? Come at me if you dare." Gu Chongqing said calmly, "He has committed a crime and he knows it clearly." Old Madame Gu said angrily, "What did he do?" With old Madame Gu backing him up, Gu Qinglin became bolder. "Yes, elder brother. I already said that I didn't do anything. Why don't you believe me?" Gu Chongqing's gaze was cold. Gu Yan almost lost his life. Old Madame Gu was unhappy. Yao said that her son almost lost his life. Did he really almost lose his life? You don't believe your brother, but you believe an outsider? I was the one who saved him. I was the one who fed him the medicine. I saw him almost die in front of me with my own eyes. Gu Chongqing didn't say these words, because even if he said it, they would think that Gu Yan was injured. Could it be that Gu Qinglin did it? As the elder brother, you saw Gu Qinglin kidnap Gu Yan with your own eyes. Who knew who he had offended outside, and was so narrow-minded that they blamed it on Gu Qinglin. Gu Chongqing wasn't siding with Gu Yan. The whole thing didn't have much to do with whether the other party was Gu Yan or not. What was important was Gu Qinglin's character. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Gu Chongqing wouldn't have believed that his own brother had become so crooked. Gu Chongqing refused to let him go no matter what. Old Madame Gu was so angry that she asked him to kneel in front of the ancestral tablets to receive his punishment. Gu Chongqing didn't even make a sound when she hit him with the ruler. "Are you letting your brother out or not?" "No." Old Madame Gu was so angry that her hand trembled, and the ruler hit Gu Chongqing's face. Old Madame Gu was stunned. "Grandmother, don't hit him." Gu Qingfeng hugged old Madame Gu's arm. At this time, concubine Ling also arrived. She persuaded old Madame Gu to go back. "Okay, I won't let anyone send food to Lin. But I have to let the mansion doctor treat his injury so that he can kneel obediently." Concubine Ling was a very smart woman. She could always find a way to make both sides compromise. Gu Chongqing didn't say anything and returned to his courtyard. "Call the mansion doctor," Concubine Ling ordered. "Yes." The servant girl answered. The servant girl went to call the mansion doctor, while Concubine Ling went to Gu Chongqing's courtyard. "I saw that your face was injured, so I brought you some medicine." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw that Gu Chongqing's servant was already applying medicine for him. She smiled, walked over and said, This doesn't look like the medicine in our mansion. Is it a new medicine from the military camp?" Gu Chongqing paused. "No, it's from the doctor outside. How can you use medicine from outside casually? Just use the one in the mansion." Concubine Ling handed over the medicine in her hand. Gu Chongqing said lightly, No, this is very good. Concubine Ling was stunned and took back the medicine with a smile. Okay, I'll listen to you. She paused and then said, Chongqing, this is a matter between you two brothers. Logically speaking, as a concubine, I should not interfere. However, Chenglin is your younger brother. No matter how many mistakes he has made, you should not convict him based on the madam's one-sided words. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but doing so will make Chenglin think that you're partial to madam and don't love him anymore. Gu Chongqing said. If being fair once is considered partial to others, then what is my indulgence for him in the past? Concubine Ling was speechless. After a while she said, but he's your brother. You should love him more. Gu Chongqing didn't continue this topic. Instead he changed the topic. Concubine, was my mother really killed by Yao Shi? Concubine Ling looked at him strangely. Why are you suddenly asking this? Gu Chongqing said thoughtfully. There's always been a rumor in the mansion that Yao Shi killed my mother. Concubine Ling smiled faintly. There's no evidence. Just listen to it. Don't take it to heart. Gu Chongqing said. I have evidence. It's because I have evidence that I've believed it for so many years. What evidence? Concubine Ling asked. Gu Chongqing said. When my mother was sick, someone wrote a letter to my father. It was basically expressing their feelings to my father and asking him when he would marry her. That letter fell into my mother's hands. My mother's illness worsened. Concubine Ling's face was shocked. I didn't think that something like this would happen to Jiejia. Gu Chongqing recalled. Yao Shi was my mother's good friend. During that time, she frequently went in and out of the mansion. Someone saw Yao Shi secretly put the letter in my father's study. A few days later, my mother called Yao Shi and openly asked her if she wanted to be my father's second wife. At that time, I was standing outside the door and eavesdropping. If she said yes, I wouldn't have hated her for so many years. Concubine Ling's eyes widened. She rejected Jiejia? Then why did she write a letter? Gu Chongqing said. In front of my mother, she pretended to be virtuous. But behind her back, she had already had an affair with my father. Do you think my mother was angered to death by her? Concubine Ling laughed dryly. Since there's so much evidence, why did you ask if Yao Shi killed your mother? Gu Chongqing said seriously. Because she said today that she didn't do anything wrong to us. Concubine Ling smiled faintly. You believed what she said? Gu Chongqing squeezed the dagger that he took from Yao Shi. She came here today with the determination to die. She's going to die. Why would she lie? Concubine Ling said. Maybe it's for her child. Gu Chongqing said. Guyan has his sister. He doesn't care about the mansion's property. Concubine Ling smiled faintly. She also said this? Gu Chongqing shook his head. Yao Shi did say this, but he felt it more from Gu Jiao and Gu Yan. Concubine Ling, who do you think is the person who killed my mother? Concubine Ling clenched her fist. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/11483126. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 135. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are read for free. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. Old Madame Gu threw a huge tantrum in the ancestral hall, causing the entire household to know that Gu Chongqing had locked his two younger brothers in the ancestral hall. Marquis Gu did not know about this. He had been busy with the Ministry of Works and had not returned to the manor for a few days. Lord Gu, the Ministry of War is urging us again. An official under Marquis Gu said. Marquis Gu sat in his chair and looked at the mountain of documents on his desk. He felt a headache coming on. Urging us, urging us, urging us all day long. Aren't they already in the process of forging? It's only been a few days? The official suffered an unexpected calamity and was scolded on both sides. He felt bitter. The Ministry of War said that our speed is too slow. They can't wait 2 months. Marquis Gu said angrily. We have to wait even if we can't. What they want are weapons. Weapons are made of iron, not mud. Is it that fast? The official broke out in cold sweat. The Ministry of War said that they will give you at most 1 month. You must forge that batch of swords. 1 month? He's daydreaming. It was not that Marquis Gu did not want to forge the swords for the Ministry of War, but their current technology was limited. If they could obtain the latest water row technology from the Liang Kingdom, perhaps the amount of iron they could forge would increase greatly, the official said. But the Ministry of War said that even the civilian blacksmiths can make such a small amount of weapons. Why can't our Ministry of Works do it? Civilian blacksmiths can make it? Marquis Gu laughed sarcastically. The Ministry of War is even using their ability to spread rumors for the sake of weapons? The official said embarrassedly. No, Lord Gu, this official seems to have heard of this before. There is a type of box among the civilians that is more effective than our water row. The wind is stronger and the firepower is stronger. In a day, it can forge 10 times more iron. 10 times? Marquis Gu waved his hand. No, that's impossible. Even the Liang Kingdom could not do it. The Liang Kingdom passed down the earliest water row technology to the Zhao Kingdom, but it should not be 10 times worse than theirs. The official asked, why don't we send someone to investigate? It's said that it's a place called Clear Spring Town in Yuzhou Province. Marquis Gu waved his hand. Oh, that's even more impossible. I just came from Yu Province. How could I not know of such a powerful technology? Marquis Gu was determined not to investigate. The Ministry of War couldn't wait any longer and immediately sent someone over. In early November, there was a light shui in Beijing. The moment little Jing Kong stepped out of the house, he did not look where he was going and tripped. Ever since he left the mountain, little Jing Kong rarely wrestled. Gu Jiao almost forgot that he was a famous wrestling monk. However, he was still adept at throwing himself. He hugged his head, bent his knees, and rolled around the yard like a small ball. Gu Jiao had just come out of the kitchen. Little Jing Kong rolled to Gu Jiao's feet. Then the little Jing Kong spread its arms and legs and looked at Gu Jiao cutely. Gu Jiao picked him up and patted the snowflakes off his body. Why did you fall again? Little Jing Kong was intoxicated in Gu Jiao's arms. Jiao Jiao is too beautiful. I was mesmerized by Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao was speechless. Did the wrestling monk turn into a lovey-dovey monk? Little Jing Kong's hair was short. Worried that he would feel cold, Gu Jiao bought him a tiger head hat. The tiger's eyes were big and round. Little Jing Kong looked cute when he wore it. He usually did not wear it in the academy because he thought it was childish. However, in front of Gu Jiao he not only wore the tiger head hat, but also wore a tiger head vest and tiger head shoes. After acting cute and asking for a kiss, little Jing Kong skipped back to his room with his brother-in-law. After finishing the early morning business, he changed back to Jing Kong and went to school with a serious face. Gu Yan felt much better after resting for a few days. He could go to school now. Gu Jiao prepared a hand warmer, one for her great-aunt, one for Xiao Lulang and one for each of her 3 younger brothers. Xiao Lulang took little Jing Kong to the Imperial College. Gu Jiao sent Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshan to school. Gu Yan looked around when he walked out of the alley. Gu Jiao asked, "Who are you looking for?" "No one." Gu Yan looked up at the sky. How could he say no? For the past few days, he had been running to the door and looking at the end of the alley. Gu Jiao was his sister. How could she not know what he was thinking? However, that person had not appeared since he saved Gu Yan. Gu Jiao sent them to the academy. Then she went to Chang'an Avenue. She had been here for a long time. She had familiarized herself with the nearby terrain. She had thought about it. Although they still had 1,000 taels of silver, the price of goods in the capital was so high that they could not just sit at home and eat. She bought some herbs in the market and made some medicine for wounds. She planned to sell it in the nearby clinic. When she walked to the first clinic, she saw an acquaintance, Little Six. The young man who was called Little Six turned around in a daze. His eyes lit up. Miss Gu? You came to the capital? Gu Jiao nodded. My husband came to study in the Imperial College. We all moved here. Little Six hurriedly bowed. Congratulations, young Master Xiao. Congratulations, Miss Gu. Little Six was the coachman of the second boss. He had run many errands for Gu Jiao when they were in the clinic. He was also the one who got the iron tools for cutting the mountain. Where is the second boss? Gu Jiao asked. Little Six's face darkened. The situation of the second boss is not very good. I can't explain it in a few words. He is in the tavern over there. I will take Miss Gu there. Okay. Gu Jiao agreed. On the way to the tavern, Little Six told her more or less. The general idea was that the second boss suddenly returned to the capital, because Master Hu was dying. The second boss rushed back to the capital without stopping. However, he still could not see Master Hu for the last time. The Hu family did not even wait for the second boss to come back. They buried Master Hu. In fact, the second boss was only late by one day. If he had waited for one more day, he could have personally sent his father off. The Hu family did not even give him such an opportunity. This was not the most hateful thing. The most hateful thing was that the Hu family actually put the blame on the second boss. They slandered that the second boss was indifferent to the old man's illness and did not come to the funeral. The Zhao kingdom ruled the world by filial piety. The second boss' reputation was ruined when he was accused of being unfilial. He was driven out by the Hu family. Little Six wiped his tears. He could not help but feel sorry for the second boss. I know. Gu Jiao arrived at the door of the tavern and said to Little Six, Go and bring some hot tea over. Little Six choked with sobs and turned to find the hot tea. Gu Jiao entered the room and a pungent smell of alcohol hit her nose. After not seeing him for several months, the once high-spirited second boss was now like a sloppy drunkard. He was paralyzed on the floor without any image. Beside him were countless empty wine bottles. He stared blankly at the ceiling, motionless, as if he was dead. Gu Jiao stepped over the wine bottle and squatted down beside him. She opened the small medicine box and took out 2 hangover pills. Here. The second boss did not move. At this time, Little Six brought hot water into the room. Gu Jiao took the hot water and asked Little Six to help the second boss up. She forced him to take the hangover pills. Little Six looked at the disheveled and unkempt second boss and choked with sobs. Master, Miss Gu came to see you. The second boss sat on the floor with a dull expression. Gu Jiao looked at him and calmly asked, How did your father die? The second boss suddenly came back to his senses and looked at Gu Jiao in a daze. The emotions that he did not dare to vent in front of his family suddenly broke down. His tears fell down uncontrollably. He held his head and cried until his whole body trembled. Gu Jiao did not disturb him. She quietly waited for him to finish crying. Little Six's eyes reddened as he left. After a long time, the second boss finally calmed down. He used his sleeve to wipe his tears and smiled at Gu Jiao. Girl, why are you here? I came to accompany my husband to study at the Imperial College. Master Xiao has passed the high school. Congratulations. What happened to you? Perhaps it was because of the hangover pills or because he had cried all his tears, but he felt a lot better. He smiled as if nothing had happened. It's nothing. I've been muddle-headed for a few days. I've made a fool of myself. Are you still going back to the Hu family? Gu Jiao asked. The second boss was stunned. After a while he smiled bitterly. I can't go back. Was your father good to you? The second boss thought for a long time. He was good before. Before his mother passed away, the family of 3 lived a happy life. Since he had a stepmother, he also had a stepfather. So you blame your stepmother? The second boss wanted to say, how many stepmothers in the world are good? But when he was about to say it, he remembered that Gu Jiao's mother was also a stepmother. He said, if my stepmother was half as kind as the Marchioness, I wouldn't be like this. But it's no use. No matter how kind she is, her 3 stepsons still don't like her. So you think I'm wrong? No, you're not wrong. I won't comment on the matters of the Marquis family. But for your matters, the one who's wrong is your father. He was so heartless to you. Why do you feel sad for his death? Gu Jiao wasn't blaming the second boss. She really didn't understand. She didn't have this in her emotional reserves. Whoever was good to her, she would be good to them. Whoever bullied her, she would bully them back, even if the other party was her own father. She looked at the second boss strangely. Second boss already knew that she was different from the others. Her way of thinking was different from theirs. He bitterly smiled and patiently explained. Actually, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe. I just remember how he treated me well in the past. Gu Jiao still didn't understand. Maybe she wouldn't understand in this lifetime. What do you plan to do if you don't go back to the Hu family? I don't know. Gu Jiao seriously thought about it. How about selling medicine with me? The second boss. He didn't comfort her. Thank you. At first, the second boss thought that Gu Jiao really wanted to drag him to sell medicine in the streets. Later, he realized that Gu Jiao wanted to open a medical center. The second boss would provide the capital, and Gu Jiao would invest in the technology. They would each own 50% of the shares. If other people advised the second boss like this, the second boss would definitely not agree. He didn't have the confidence or the will to fight. Gu Jiao was different. She had a kind of power that made people believe in her. The second boss made up his mind. Okay, let's do it. However, the second boss was expelled from the Hu family. He didn't have much money on hand. Even if he bought the cheapest shop nearby, he would need at least 3,000 taels. I can lend you some. Gu Jiao said, but there will be interest. The second boss. I keep feeling that something is wrong. At noon, Xiao Luleng came back for lunch. Gu Jiao told Xiao Luleng about the money. There were still 1,000 taels left at home. She would need to use about 800 taels. In the study, Xiao Luleng was organizing the books he was going to bring to the academy. When he heard this, he said without thinking, "The money is for you to use. You don't have to tell me." So generous. Gu Jiao said, "Oh, aren't you going to ask me what it's for?" "What is it for?" Xiao Luleng asked. "Loan sharks," Gu Jiao said. Xiao Luleng was dumbfounded. "Huh." Gu Jiao was amused by him again. "I'm lying to you. I'm lending it to someone else. You know that person too. He's the second boss of Rejuvenation Hall." Xiao Luleng said casually, "I heard that you worked as a medicine boy in his house?" Gu Jiao blinked her eyes and said, "Who told you that?" Xiao Luleng said, "Mother-in-law." Gu Jiao. Ever since he found out that her box might be a small medicine box, Xiao Luleng had a faint guess. But since she didn't say it, he didn't point it out. They both had secrets about each other. His identity, her background. Xiao Luleng picked up a cup of hot tea on the table and took a sip. Gu Jiao hummed and pointed at the other cup of tea on the table. "I just drank this. This cup is for you." Xiao Liulong's expression froze. Gu Jiao looked at him with her chin in her hands. "You also drank what I drank. Rounded up, did the two of us indirectly do that?" Xiao Liulong's handsome face turned red. He put down the teacup and said seriously, "What nonsense are you talking about? I didn't drink from the same place as you just drank from." "Oh." Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. "Don't blush if you can. I'm going to cook." "Okay." Xiao Liulong's expression was serious. Gu Jiao looked at him one last time and turned to cook. The clanking of pots and pans came from the kitchen. Only then did Xiao Luleng let out a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He pressed down on his somewhat disobedient chest and fixed his gaze on the teacup. He slowly picked up the teacup and took a sip carefully. "Brother-in-law." Little Jing Kong suddenly jumped in. Xiao Luleng choked with guilt. He almost choked to death. Digression 23333. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found online are available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896422826/1148276/HTML Genius memorized the website's address. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 136. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are read for free. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. After Xiao Lulang entered the Imperial College, he attracted quite a bit of attention. There was no other reason other than his appearance made people think of the young chancellor. All the teachers who had seen the young chancellor were amazed that there was someone who looked so similar in this world. However, although they looked similar, the young chancellor had already passed away. They had all attended his funeral so naturally, they wouldn't confuse the young man in front of them with him. Furthermore, Xiao Lulang only looked similar at first glance. Upon closer inspection, his gaze and temperament were completely different from the young chancellor. Other than that, his temperament, behavior, and even his handwriting and essays were different from the young chancellor. How much effort did a person have to put in to be able to be reborn? Furthermore, if he was the young chancellor, why didn't he return to the Xiao family? He was still a cripple. If it was in the previous dynasty, people with serious illnesses wouldn't be able to participate in the imperial examinations. It was only after the change of dynasty that the old uniforms were abolished. There weren't many students who had seen the young chancellor, so it didn't cause too much of a commotion. Why is County King free to come to the Imperial College today? In the Imperial College's Mingzheng Hall, Zheng Sai received County King, and who was wearing a brocade robe. Although County King and was a student of the Imperial College, he had special privileges and didn't have to come to school every day. This was the first time he showed his face since school started. County King smiled and said, "I heard that there is a very impressive new student in the Imperial College." He didn't mention the name, but Zheng Sai instantly guessed Xiao Liulang's name. Zheng Sai smiled fawningly. "He's just as compared to you, County King, it's like the difference between heaven and earth." County King smiled faintly. "You can't say that. He's someone I have high hopes for." Zheng Sai was stunned. County King smiled. Our Zhuang family originally wanted to recommend him into the college, but he got in himself. Zheng Sai actually thinks that this kind of person is just SOSO? Zheng Sai broke out in a cold sweat. This Junwang really didn't play by the rules. If a normal person encountered such a student, wouldn't they have treated the other party as a troublesome person and be on guard? Judging from the Duke's words, was the Zhuang family planning to rope him in? Royal Prince did have the intention to rope in Xiao Lulang. Although the Zhuang family had produced many talents, who would complain about having too many talents? With one more chess piece, wouldn't they have a higher chance of winning the game? Royal Prince looked at Zheng Sai. "Tell me the truth. How capable is Xiao Lulang?" Zheng Sai hesitated for a moment, then said, "In terms of true talent, he is indeed outstanding. But this official still has the same words. He can't be compared to you. You don't have to compete with me," Prince said casually. Zheng Sai paused for a moment, then cupped his hands and said, "Then if we exclude you, he would be the #1 freshman this year." Royal Prince N's red lips curled up. "Very good. Train him well. Our Zhuang family wants this person." Zheng Sai put on a fake smile. It's his good fortune to be chosen by the Zhuang family. To be honest, Zheng Sai didn't like Xiao Lulang very much. It was mainly because this fellow didn't respect him enough. Every time they met, he had the illusion that he didn't know who was the teacher. Royal Prince, then this officials. Zheng Sai looked at Royal Prince meaningfully. Royal Prince said, "The Imperial College will be reopened. The position of Chancellor naturally can't remain empty. I will report this to my grandfather, and ask him to put in a good word for Zheng Sai in the Imperial Court if necessary." Zheng Sai thanked him profusely. "Thank you, Royal Prince. Thank you, Grand Tutor." Gu Jiao didn't hide the fact that she wanted to join the partnership and open a medical center from her family. Of course, she didn't say how much she wanted to invest. She only said that if she invested 800 taels, she would be able to open a medical center. Her family expressed their strong support for this. After dinner, the matriarch found Gu Jiao and threw her a money bag. What's this for? Gu Jiao asked. The matriarch said faintly, return the money to me after the medical center makes money. This was the matriarch's coffin money. Inside it was the money that Gu Jiao usually gave to her as a filial piety, the money that she earned from selling the wound medicine, and the money that she earned from telling people how to exorcise evil spirits and reading palms. It wasn't a small amount. It was a total of 50 taels. Gu Jiao. I wouldn't have known if I didn't open a medical center. You can make a lot of money in secret. Gu Xiaoshan also gave the money that she usually didn't bear to spend to Gu Jiao. Gu Yan didn't need to say anything. He gave all his pocket money to his elder sister, and also got 10 taels in advance from the little monk. Since then, he started to work part-time for the little monk to pay off his debts. After Xiao Lulang entered the Imperial College, he earned a small sum of money by doing homework for the rich children. However, he felt that it wasn't enough to open a medical center. He found Lin Qingye and patted his shoulder. Are you still worried about not being able to do your homework? Are you still losing your hair because you can't write 8-legged essay? Gold medal tutoring. Try to reach the Huiyuan level. The price is favorable. If it's ineffective, half the money will be refunded. Lin Qingye. When he met with the second boss again, Gu Jiao's money was no less than the second boss's. The second boss was quite puzzled. After all, the second boss had been the boss for so many years. He still had some connections. Gu Jiao didn't need to worry about the manpower. The biggest problem now was where to open the medical center. For Gu Jiao's sake, it was best to open it near the Imperial College. Gu Jiao found Zhang Bao. Zhang Bao took the two of them to see the shops and houses on Chang, an avenue and Xuanwu Avenue. Chang, an avenue had a larger flow of people and was more prosperous. However, the good shops had all been rented out. The remaining shops were either too expensive or too inferior. No wonder they couldn't be rented out. Then let's go to Xuanwu Avenue, Zhang Bao said. Xuanwu Avenue wasn't as lively as here. It was better to do business here. Zhang Bao smiled. Xuanwu Avenue is more convenient to go to the Imperial College. Business won't be bad. Let's go take a look, Gu Jiao said. Okay. The second boss sighed. The three of them went to Xuanwu Avenue. To be honest, this street looked more orderly than Chang'an Avenue. It was just that the flow of people was less. Zhang Bao introduced a commercial and residential house to the two of them. This was originally a residential house. It was later changed into a shop. What do you think of this? This shop was much better than the ones on Chang'an Avenue. However, the second boss was more interested in the one next to it. That one has already been bought, Zhang Bao said. How much is this? The second boss asked. 300 taels, Zhang Bao said. 300 taels? The second boss thought he had misheard. Zhang Bao smiled. Yes, one payment per year. The deposit is 1,000 taels. You're too expensive. The second boss was from the capital. Even he felt that this price was somewhat unacceptable. Zhang Bao said helplessly. The price is rising. Last year, I could buy it for you for 250 taels. But this year, the Imperial College reopened. The prices of the houses in this area have all risen. The second boss looked at this house and then looked at the bigger and more magnificent one next to it. 300 taels is more like it. Are you sure you want this one? Gu Jiao asked. The second boss said. This one is bigger. Gu Jiao nodded to Zhang Bao. Zhang Bao took out a piece of paper. Then let's sign this deal? The second boss was startled. Didn't you say that someone has already bought it? Gu Jiao slowly took out the house deed from her sleeve. Yes, someone has already bought it. The owner is my family's little Jing Kong. Come. Don't let your own fertile water flow into other people's fields. 300 taels it is. I'll rent it to you at a cheap price. The second boss pinched his philtrum. His eyes rolled back and he fell down. When little Jing Kong learned that Gu Jiao wanted to partner with others to open a medical center, he offered his house deed without hesitation. Of course, Gu Jiao couldn't let the little guy suffer a loss. If he wanted to rent someone else's house, why not rent her own? But if the second boss didn't like it, she wouldn't force him. Who knew that he would like it? Gu Jiao spread her hands. You can't blame me for this. When the second boss woke up, the contract had already been drawn up. He painfully paid the money and signed the signature. To be honest, he still didn't like this area. Although it was convenient to go to the Imperial College, an Imperial College couldn't support a big medical center. The second boss's worries lasted until the second day of the medical center's renovation. He was discussing with the carpenter about where to get the medicine cabinet. Gu Jiao took a broom to clean the lobby. Then she saw a handsome young scholar passing by. The young scholar inadvertently glanced at Gu Jiao, and then stopped. The young scholar walked back and came to Gu Jiao. He pointed at himself with the folding fan and said, "Miss, do you still remember me?" "I don't remember," Gu Jiao said without thinking. The young scholar bent down to look at Gu Jiao's eyes. "How can you not remember me? Look at me." Gu Jiao didn't look at him. She turned around and swept other places. The young scholar turned back to Gu Jiao. "You must remember me. I still remember you." This logic was very interesting. She remembered her, so she must remember her? The young scholar's persistence was beyond Gu Jiao's imagination. Gu Jiao kept sweeping and ignored her. She simply squatted down and looked at Gu Jiao eagerly. Gu Jiao sighed helplessly. "What do you want?" The little scholar chuckled. "You finally remember me, right?" Gu Jiao said lightly. "Our medical center hasn't opened yet. If you want to see a doctor, you'd better go somewhere else." "Oh, so this is a medical center. Will you be working in this medical center in the future?" The young scholar asked. Obviously, he didn't think that Gu Jiao could open a medical center with the way she dressed. He thought that she was most likely hired by someone. Gu Jiao nodded casually and continued sweeping the floor. The young scholar exclaimed excitedly, "Then we will see each other often in the future." Gu Jiao looked at him strangely. "Do you have many diseases?" The young scholar shook his head like a rattledrum. His temper was really good. If it were someone else who was asked this question, they would have been angry. She didn't feel bad at all. She said, "Do you know what the houses next to yours have been bought for?" "I don't know." Gu Jiao said, "It's an academy." The young scholar said, "Oh." Gu Jiao was very calm. On the side, the second boss, who had been discussing cabinets with the carpenter, couldn't stay calm. He rushed over and looked at the young scholar. "What did you say just now? What academy? Haven't you heard? The Crown Prince Consort is going to open a girls' academy. On this street, the houses on the west side and a large piece of land behind them have all been bought by the Crown Prince Consort." As the young scholar spoke, he pointed at their medical center. "I remember that this shop was also going to be bought, but the owner couldn't be found, so it couldn't be rented." "That's right, how did you buy it?" "Even the Crown Prince Consort couldn't find it, so how did you find it?" The second boss thought. Because the owner was a little monk from a temple, you couldn't find it. If the girls' academy was next to the Crown Prince Consort's, would the medical center have to worry about business? The second boss suppressed the excitement in his heart and asked, "You didn't make a mistake, right? We didn't hear about it." The young scholar said, "It's inside information. Of course you didn't hear about it." Inside, Gu Jiao glanced at the young scholar. The young scholar clapped his hands. "All right, I'm leaving. When the girls' academy opens, I'll come and find you. The Crown Prince Consort really is a good person." She stood her ground against all opposition and opened the first girls' academy since the founding of the country of Zhao. In the future, women can also go to the academy to study like men. Don't you think this Crown Prince Consort is very outstanding? After 100 years, the Crown Prince Consort will definitely be recorded in the annals of history, and her name will go down in history. Gu Jiao didn't care if anyone could go down in history, but with a girls' academy, their medical center would have business. The second boss couldn't stop smiling. This location was good, too good. It was as if he could already see the shining silver flowing towards him. The news that the Crown Prince Consort was opening a girls' academy quickly spread through the noble circles. While the country of Zhao did not believe that it was virtuous for women to have no talent like the previous dynasty, women could only hire tutors to teach at home. The former Crown Prince Consort was like this, and now Gu Jinyu was like this. But today, Gu Jinyu received an invitation to enroll. Gu Jinyu finally learned that the Crown Prince consort had opened a girls' academy near the directorate. It seems that she sent me a present on the day of my graduation not because His Majesty had conferred the title of County Princess on me, but because she wants me to go to school at her academy. She knew it. How could the high and mighty Crown Prince consort think highly of a little county princess like her? The girls' academy had just opened, and there were not many who were willing to send their daughters there. She had a very good reputation in the capital. If she entered the academy, there would definitely be many people who would follow her. The newest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114797363. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 137. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that could not be found online are all available here. Gu Jinyu felt a little disappointed when she thought about how the Crown Princess had given her a gift with ulterior motives. "Miss, the Crown Princess has invited you to enroll in the academy. Will you go?" A young maid beside her asked. "I don't know." Women should not show their faces in public, but this was another chance for her to make a name for herself. If she stayed in the manor, her fame would be limited. She longed for more people to see her talent, and there was no better place than the academy. But she was worried that old Madame Gu and her mother would not agree. Old Madame Gu was more conservative. Her father had lobbied for a long time to hire a tutor for her. If they knew that she was going to study outside, Gu Jinyu frowned. Just as she was vexed, a servant reported that the Marquis had returned. Gu Jinyu hurried to the door to welcome him. Marquis Gu had been busy at the Ministry of Works for many days. He had lost a layer of skin. He walked out of the carriage haggardly. When he entered the residence, he saw his daughter walking towards him with a smile on her face. "Father," Gu Jinyu called out sweetly. Marquis Gu felt all his exhaustion disappear when she called him father. He smiled and looked dotingly at his daughter. "It's so cold. Why did you come out?" "I came to wait for father," Gu Jinyu said with a smile. Marquis Gu said with satisfaction, "You're the most considerate. Oh right, how's your mother? Is she in the residence?" "Yes, mother just went to bed," Gu Jinyu said. Marquis Gu frowned. "She went to bed so early. Are you feeling unwell?" He had just finished speaking when he saw the invitation in Gu Jinyu's hand. "What's that in your hand?" Gu Jinyu handed the invitation to Marquis Gu. "The Crown Princess has set up a girls' school and wants me to go." Marquis Gu opened it and took a look. "What did your mother say?" Gu Jinyu said softly. "Mother went to bed. I haven't had the chance to tell her. What do you think, father?" Marquis Gu said. "If your mother thinks it's okay, then you can go." Gu Jinyu hesitated. "I'll do it." Marquis Gu did not find this difficult. Thinking of something, Marquis Gu asked, "Only one invitation? Did they say how to enter the school?" Gu Jinyu said, "Just one invitation." The person who sent the invitation said that noble ladies who are famous for their talents in the capital are exempted from the entrance exam. If anyone else wants to enroll, they just have to pass the exam. "There's still a test?" Marquis Gu frowned deeply. That girl only knew how to farm and was illiterate. How could she pass the exam? "Is there a way to get another slot?" he asked. Gu Jinyu asked innocently, "Does father want elder sister to enroll as well?" "I'll ask. If it's possible, I'll ask Crown Princess to give elder sister a spot. If there's no more, I'm willing to teach elder sister how to read and read. I'm just afraid that even if you're willing, she won't appreciate it." "Forget it." Keep the card properly. Marquis Gu returned the card to Gu Jinyu. Seeing that she was hesitating to speak, he could not help but ask, "What's wrong?" Gu Jinyu said in a low voice, "Father hasn't been back for a few days. He probably doesn't know that something has happened in the manor." Marquis Gu asked, "What happened?" Gu Jinyu lowered her eyes and pinched her handkerchief as she said, "Third brother and second brother were locked up in the ancestral hall by eldest brother." Marquis Gu sucked in a breath of cold air. "What did they do?" "No, your second brother doesn't do anything anymore." "Is it your third brother? What did he do again?" Gu Jinyu looked troubled. "It seems third brother and elder sister got into a quarrel, and elder sister beat him up. Third brother is seriously injured." "Why does that girl beat up everyone she catches?" Marquis Gu's teeth hurt. He rolled up his sleeves and said coldly, "Has that girl returned to the manor?" "Elder sister. Eldest miss hasn't returned to the manor." Gu Jinyu was only halfway through her sentence when Nanny Fong, who had appeared nearby, interrupted her. Nanny Fong bowed to the two of them and said neither obsequiously nor haughtily, "Third young master bullied little master and caused little master's heart disease to act up. Eldest miss was angry and taught third young master a lesson. Third young master only suffered superficial wounds. Compared to little master, it's not worth mentioning." They were indeed superficial wounds, the kind that would keep him bedridden for a month. Guyan was already alive and kicking. Gu Qinglin's torment had just begun. Every night, he was in so much pain that even medicine didn't help. Nanny Fong sighed. Third young master has always been spoiled. He also cries for his parents when he suffers from superficial wounds. Poor little master. When his heart disease acts up, he doesn't cry or make a fuss. How disheartened must he be, but everyone thinks he's fine. Gu Jinyu's face was burning. Nanny Fong's words not only mocked Gu Jinyu, but also put a label on Gu Qinglin. Later, even if Marquis Gu saw a wailing Gu Qinglin, he would only think that he was spoiled. Marquis Gu frowned. "Has Yena met Qinglin?" Nanny Fong sneered. "It's a coincidence that the three young masters entered the same academy. On the first day of school, third young master recognized little master, but little master didn't recognize him. He was kidnapped to the woodshed and locked up for an entire day. Later, his heart disease acted up and he narrowly escaped death." Marquis Gu was furious. "Unfilial son. Make him kneel in the ancestral hall." After saying this coldly, Marquis Gu didn't even look at Gu Qinglin's injuries. He got into the carriage and went to Jade Water Alley to see Gu Yan. Only Nanny Fong and Gu Jinyu were left on the lawn. Gu Jinyu opened her mouth. Nanny Fong curtsied. "Second young miss, it's getting late. You should go back and rest. This servant also needs to go back and serve madam." "Nanny." Gu Jinyu stopped her. I was going to say it just now." Nanny Fong nodded. "This servant understands. Although second young miss isn't the Marquis' estate's biological daughter, madam raised her. How could second young miss not help madam but someone else? Wouldn't that be too cruel and unscrupulous?" Gu Jinyu's face paled. Nanny Fong smiled faintly. "This servant is a servant and doesn't know how to speak. Please forgive me, second young Mississippi." Gu Jinyu didn't know what to say. She felt like she was being scolded, but Nanny Fong didn't say anything against her. Nanny Fong was Madame Yao's trusted aide. Only Gu Yan could be angry with her, but as a good girl, Gu Jinyu couldn't. "Nanny, you're exaggerating." Gu Jinyu said. "Nanny, go take care of my mother." Nanny Fong said earnestly, "Second young miss, you should remember madam's words. Don't interact with the late madam's three sons. They won't accept second young miss and won't be your support in the future. Forgive this servant for speaking bluntly, but second young miss can only rely on madam and eldest young Mississippi." Gu Jinyu smiled faintly. "I'll remember, Nanny." A girl who grew up in the countryside and only knew how to dig for food in the fields. What right did she have to be her support? Because of that crippled husband who understood Yuan in high school? Nanny was indeed old. Marquis Gu went to see Gu Yan. Gu Yan was fine, but he still pretended to be dying. Marquis Gu was furious. When he returned to the estate, no matter how old Madame Gu came to find him, he was determined not to ask Gu Chongqing to release Gu Qinglin. Old Madame Gu sent someone to deliver charcoal to Gu Qinglin. "What charcoal?" Just freeze him to death. Gu Qinglin's charcoal was confiscated by his biological father just like that. Xiao Lulang also heard a little about the girls' school when he was in the Imperial College. This matter was actually slightly different from the rumors in the circle. It wasn't initiated by the crown princess. As early as 10 years ago, Empress Dowager Zhuang had proposed to open a girls' school, but it was unanimously opposed by the emperor and the cabinet ministers. This matter was left unsettled. Now that the matter was brought up again, it was most likely the emperor's idea. Grand Tutor Zhuang led hundreds of officials to plead to reopen the Imperial College, and his prestige in the court and the people's heart soared. The emperor wanted to accumulate prestige for the imperial family, so he used the crown princess's name to open a girls' school. Since it was opened by the court, the quality of the girls' school must not be too bad. During dinner, Xiao Lulang talked about the girls' school at the dining table. Little Jingkong exclaimed, "Girls' school? Does that mean Jiao Jiao can go there too?" Old Madam vaguely felt that the two words girls' school sounded strangely familiar. She tried to recall but couldn't remember anything. However, this didn't stop her from supporting Gu Jiao to go to school. "You can go." Gu Jiao. She didn't want to go. A certain someone who had experienced a series of cruel examinations such as the college entrance examination in her previous life, didn't want to flip through books again in this life. Her family didn't force her. After all, the feeling of being forced to go to school was too depressing. Xiao Lulang, Gu Xiaoshan, Gu Yan, and Little Jingkong all deeply experienced this. After dinner, Little Jingkong suddenly looked at Gu Jiao cutely. "Jiao Jiao, I want to eat sugar-coated haws." Gu Jiao touched his tiger head hat. "Okay, I'll go buy it for you." This was the advantage of living on the streets. They could buy whatever they wanted to eat at any time. They didn't have such conditions in the countryside. "I'll go," Xiao Lulang said. "It's not that far," Gu Jiao said. Old Madame Yang waved her hand. "Okay, you two go together. Don't dawdle." The two of them went to Chang, an avenue together. It wasn't snowing when they went out, but snowflakes started to fall halfway. Gu Jiao looked at the flying snow above her head and sighed. "The snow in the capital comes so early." Xiao Lulang said, "It's not early this year. Sometimes it snows by the end of October." "Oh," Gu Jiao asked. "Did you live in the capital for a long time?" The two of them rarely asked each other's secrets. It was the first time such a topic was brought up so calmly. "Yes." Xiao Lulang nodded. Gu Jiao didn't ask further. Some topics were brought up unexpectedly, but they shouldn't be discussed too deeply. She looked at the busy streets. "The capital is so nice." Xiao Lulang looked at her. "You like the capital?" "Yes." Gu Jiao said. "The capital is lively." She actually didn't really like bustling places, but being in a lively environment made her feel more clearly that she was still alive. The snow was very heavy, but the wind stopped, and the snowflakes fell quietly. She remembered that there was a snowy night like this in town. They went out to buy osmanthus cakes and sat in front of a stall to eat 2 bowls of steaming glutinous rice balls. Life was hard at that time. She couldn't even bear to buy a poached egg for herself, and only asked the boss to give him one. Although the truth was that Gu Jiao didn't like to eat poached eggs, Xiao Lulang didn't know that, so he was touched until now. "Aya, how can you walk?" Gu Jiao bumped into someone. It was a young man who was in a hurry. The young man was almost knocked down. He fiercely said to Gu Jiao, "Be careful." Gu Jiao, oh. She really did bump into someone. She was not an unreasonable person. She was occasionally very obedient. She apologized. The young man didn't say anything else and walked away muttering. People came and went on the streets of Chang'an. If one wasn't careful, they would bump into someone. Xiao Lulang glanced at her and wanted to say something. The snow was getting heavier, and there was a hint of cold wind. Why aren't there any candied haws? I remember it was around here during the day." Gu Jiao's little hand was frozen stiff. She raised it to her lips and blew on it. Xiao Lulang looked at her hand and moved his fingertips. But he didn't reach out his hand. Gu Jiao blew a few more times. It was very cold. Xiao Lulang finally gathered his courage and raised his hand to hold her hand. "I found it, look." Gu Jiao pointed. Xiao Lulang's hand missed. After Gu Jiao finished pointing, she turned around to look at him. He seamlessly changed the topic. Without batting an eyelid, he raised his empty hand and touched his handsome head. Gu Jiao walked over and asked for 5 sticks of candied haws. By the way, little brother, do you have any candied haws with less sugar? The vendor smiled. What a coincidence, miss, I do have some. My little nephew is only 1 year old. He likes to eat candied haws, but it's not good for his teeth. I made a few for him. They look bright red, but they don't have much sugar. Then can you give me 2? Gu Jiao asked. Okay. The vendor took 2 sticks of unsweet candied haws and gave them to Gu Jiao. The total is 70 copper coins. I'll give you a small one. Thank you. Gu Jiao took the candied haws and grabbed them all in one hand. They were so big that she almost couldn't hold them. Xiao Lulang saw that she was struggling and said to her, I'll do it. Gu Jiao shook her head. No need. I'll take them. After saying that, she turned around and walked back. Xiao Lulang followed with his walking stick. As they walked, a soft little hand suddenly reached over and held his hand. Xiao Lulang was stunned. Gu Jiao tilted her head and blinked. If you take the candied haws, you won't be able to hold my hand. Didn't you want to hold my hand just now? Xiao Luolang's face turned red. He suddenly felt that his heart was full. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114792314. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 138. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. The couple held hands and didn't let go until they reached the door. Seeing Xiao Luolang's unsatisfied expression, Gu Jiao leaned close to him and whispered, If you want to hold hands, I'll let you hold hands next time. No. With a deadpan expression, Xiao Lulang walked into the courtyard with the same hand and foot. Gu Jiao took the Tonghulu into the house. Old Madam's house was the warmest, so they all sat there. Xiao Lulang went straight to the study. Gu Jiao brought the Tonghulu over. Little Jing Kong's eyes lit up when he saw the Tonghulu. Jiao Jiao, come and warm up by the fire. Okay. Gu Jiao gave him a Tonghulu with less sugar and another Tonghulu with less sugar to Old Madam. She also gave 2 Tonghulu with normal sugar to Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshan. Gu Yan didn't eat much. He just liked to have fun. Old Madam stared at Gu Yan's Tonghulu, and tears flowed out of her mouth uncontrollably. Where's brother-in-law? Gu Yan asked. Your brother-in-law went to the study, Gu Jiao said. Old Madam ordered little Jing Kong. Go and ask your brother-in-law to warm up by the fire. No need. Gu Jiao said. He's not cold at all. His palms are sweaty. The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. His palms were sweaty. How did you know? You two are holding hands. Little Jing Kong suddenly felt that the Tonghulu wasn't delicious anymore. Little Jing Kong jumped down from the small chair and decisively held Jiao Jiao's hand. Bad brother-in-law held hands. I want to hold hands too. Gu Yan held Gu Jiao's other hand. Little Monk held hands. I want to hold hands too. The confused Gu Jiao. Gu Xiaoshan looked even more confused. The old lady was happy. The 2 idiots were finally making progress. Her little great-grandson was just around the corner. To commemorate this important development, the old lady decided to eat 1 less candied fruit tonight. She placed the preserved fruit high on the bedside table. Happy. The moonlight was like water. It quietly flowed on the bedside table, and the candied fruit was sparkling and translucent under the moonlight. The old lady left. The old lady came back. She grabbed the candied fruit and stuffed it into her mouth. To hell with the commemoration. If you're happy, you should celebrate. You should eat to celebrate. The heavy snow continued to fall throughout the night, and only stopped when it was almost dawn. When Gu Jiao woke up early in the morning, the courtyard was already covered with snow. Fortunately, he had moved the chicken house and the dog house to the woodshed last night. Otherwise, if he let them freeze outside for a night, he was afraid that they would become a few small popsicles. Gu Jiao went to the backyard to get water from the well to wash up. The weather was so cold, but the well water was warm. After washing up, she went to the kitchen to start a fire to cook, but was surprised to find that someone was already sitting in front of the stove to start a fire. It was Xiao Lulang. So early. Although he used to get up early, he never got up this early. Yes. Xiao Lulang looked back at her. At this moment, the sky was not yet bright, and the snow was basically reflecting the light of the snow. An oil lamp was lit in the kitchen, and the bright light from the stove was reflected on his handsome face. She only felt that this person was truly a peerless young master. Beautiful things would make one feel beautiful just by looking at them. Gu Jiao curved her lips. Did you sleep well last night? Yes, and you? He asked. Gu Jiao walked over and took the firewood from his hand. Well, you can go and read. I'll do it. The kitchen was not big, and it was a little narrow when the two of them squeezed together. He smelled the fresh fragrance of Chinese soap on her body, as well as the unique scent of a young girl. He suddenly felt that the kitchen was a little hot, but he did not say anything. He got up and went out. However, he did not go back to the study to read. Instead, he took a shovel and began to clear the snow in the yard. Soon little Jing Kong also got up. He was always the third one in the family to get up. When he saw the snow in the yard, he was so excited that he shouted, Oh, I'm Mount Tai next door, catch the vine of love." Gu Jiao's hand trembled, and she almost lit the whole kitchen. Can this be connected? Don't shovel. Don't shovel. Don't shovel. I want to play in the snow. He threw himself into the snow. There was no such heavy snow in Yuzhou, so it was no wonder that he was so excited. The little guy was healthy, and was not afraid of catching cold. Xiao Lulang did not care about him and let him play in the snow. He took a shovel to shovel the snow in the corridor. He shoveled the snow outside the old lady and Gu Yan's room first. About half an hour later, Gu Xiaoshan also got up. At this time, little Jing Kong had successfully turned himself into the light shui man Jing Kong. He was covered in snow, and his long eyelashes were stained with snowflakes. Little Jing Kong sat in the snow and looked at him with blinking eyes. Brother Xiaoshan, do you want to play? Oh, okay. Gu Xiaoshan walked over, rolled little Jing Kong into a light shui ball, and started to roll. Little Jing Kong was rolled so hard that he stuck out his tongue and rolled his eyes. Oh. I asked you to play in the snow. I didn't ask you to play with me. Gu Xiaoshan, but you're more fun. The two of them played crazily for a while until Gu Jiao came out and carried the sweaty and drenched little ball back into the house to change her clothes. Gu Xiaoshan also took a shovel and shoveled the snow with Xiao Lulang. Breakfast was tofu and pickled vegetable soup and mutton steamed buns. To make up for little Jing Kong's regret that he couldn't eat mutton, Gu Jiao made a basket of buns for him. The snow-white buns were eaten one at a time. Little Jing Kong suddenly felt that he was really a fierce little tiger. Little Jing Kong was a little obsessed with tigers recently. Gu Jiao also sewed a double-shoulder little tiger school bag for him. After the meal, he quickly put on the little tiger's backpack and went to the Directorate of Education with his bad brother-in-law accompanying him. Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshan also went to Qinghe Academy. The old lady didn't get up until the whole family went out one after another. Gu Jiao gave her a bowl of mutton soup. Great aunt, I'll go to the clinic later. If you're bored. I'm not bored. Go ahead. The old lady waved her hand. Gu Jiao looked at the old lady strangely. Based on her understanding of the old lady, she was most likely up to something again. What did you do again? The old lady drank a mouthful of mutton soup. Nothing. She just called all the aunties in the alley over and played leaf cards for a few days. She won a lot of money, haha. Gu Jiao felt that her great-aunt was really capable. She couldn't stay idle no matter where she went. and she was always able to mingle with people. Her social skills were excellent, and she was miles ahead of her and Xiao Lulang. The old lady was a shrewd person. Gu Jiao wasn't worried that she would be deceived. She should be worried about other people. She didn't know how unlucky they were to fall into the hands of her great-aunt. "Remember to bring an umbrella," the old lady said. Gu Jiao turned around and smiled. "Okay." Gu Jiao wasn't afraid of the sun and rain, but someone reminded her to bring an umbrella. It was a new experience. She happily took an oil paper umbrella, said goodbye to her great-aunt, and went to the medical center. The second boss was a practical person. In less than 10 days, the medical center had begun to take shape. The layout of the lobby made people's eyes light up. It not only retained the characteristics of the original medical center, but also added a consultation desk. The second boss smiled and said, "Didn't you say that if there was a knowledgeable person here to divert the patients, it would make the treatment more efficient?" She did say that. Perhaps the second boss understood. And walked out was the ability of the second boss. Thinking of something, the second boss said, "I secretly went in yesterday to ask around. There really is a women's school next door. In the open space behind, the school is almost finished. I think it will open around the same time as us. When there are more people coming, we can take advantage of the good luck. It doesn't matter who opens first." Gu Jiao didn't care. She opened the medical center with her own strength. She didn't need anyone's help. The two of them were talking at the door, when suddenly a man in his mid-30s came in. He was dressed luxuriously and had a dignified aura. He didn't look like an ordinary person. The other party looked at the two of them and asked, "Who is the owner of your medical center?" The second boss said, "We are the owner." "Both of you?" The other party looked at Gu Jiao suspiciously. It was obvious that not only was Gu Jiao young, but she was also a woman. She also didn't dress well. Gu Jiao had seen this kind of gaze many times. Gu Jiao faintly glanced at him and said, "What's the matter?" The man was still polite. "I want to ask, are you willing to rent the medical center to me?" "What do you mean?" the second boss asked. The man smiled faintly and said, "To tell you the truth, I am from next door. I don't know if you have heard that we are opening a women's school. It was opened by the Crown Princess. Currently, there is still a brothel and there is no suitable location. So, I want to rent your shop and convert it into a brothel." "No." Gu Jiao refused without hesitation. The man looked at Gu Jiao in surprise. He clearly didn't expect that the other party would be so ungrateful after he mentioned the Crown Princess. In reality, the women's school wasn't opened by the Crown Princess. It was His Majesty's idea. However, when Empress Dowager Zhuang proposed to open a women's school, His Majesty didn't stand on Empress Dowager Zhuang's side. Now that he had slapped himself in the face, it didn't look good, so he used the Crown Princess name. Could it be that he had to use His Majesty's name to scare this little girl? The man said, "The price can be discussed." Gu Jiao said, "It is useless to discuss it further. No means no." The man's smile became colder. "You also found someone else to rent. Don't you just want to open a medical center? You can rent this shop to me, and I'll find you a better one." Gu Jiao looked at him like he was an idiot. "Since there is a better shop, why don't you use it?" The man choked. The second boss knew that the other party had a powerful background, and didn't want to be on bad terms with the other party. However, he also understood Gu Jiao's temper. He could only appease her. "Did you think you were in the right just because you yelled?" The man saw that he couldn't get through to Gu Jiao, so he looked at the second boss on the side and said with a smile, "Why do you have to make it so ugly? When I find the owner and tell him not to rent the shop to you, won't you still have to move out?" The second boss spread his hands. "That may not be the case." The man frowned. When did this person become so stubborn? "You." Before he could finish, he was interrupted by a cold voice. "What are you doing? Didn't you hear that he refused you? What? You want to use the Crown Princess name to oppress the common people? As far as I know, the Crown Princess didn't give you the right to bully others. It was that little scholar again. Today he was wearing a blue robe and looked fresh and handsome." The man's expression changed. Do. The little scholar knocked on his forehead with his fan. Do what? If you dare to use the Crown Princess name to oppress the common people again, I will go to His Majesty and report you. Yes, yes, yes. The man didn't even dare to breathe loudly as he ran off in a dejected manner. The second boss gave Gu Jiao a look. Who was it? Gu Jiao. I don't know. The second boss. The little scholar came to Gu Jiao and patted his hand with his fan. He said with a smile, Miss, we meet again. Don't worry, I already taught him a lesson just now. He won't dare to harass you again in the future. Gu Jiao. Oh, thank you. The little scholar simply clung to Gu Jiao and followed Gu Jiao around. Don't listen to him. He didn't come here on the Crown Princess orders. The Crown Princess wouldn't have such a rude servant. Gu Jiao understood. The little girl was still clinging to the fact that she had no feelings towards the Crown Princess. It was enough that she liked the Crown Princess. Why did everyone in the world have to like the Crown Princess? Wasn't this a very strange thing? The little scholar proudly said. You also saw it. I'm very capable. As long as you also like the Crown Princess, we can be friends. I'll protect you. As the Crown Princess #1 supporter, her goal was to spread the Crown Princess good name and have more people understand and like the Crown Princess. Gu Jiao did not waste any more words with her. She carried a box of tools and went up to the second floor. The little scholar wanted to chase after her, but the workers came over at this time. The little scholar was separated by the workers. When the workers all left, Gu Jiao had already disappeared. The little scholar was not discouraged. She put her hands on her hips and confidently said, I, Du Xiaoyan, will definitely reform you. It had been a few days since Miss Yao came. Gu Jiao counted the days. Her antidepressants were almost finished, so it was time for her to come and get new ones. Gu Jiao was puzzled. When she returned home, she saw senior servant Feng waiting in the main room with a hesitant expression. The elderly lady had gone to sleep. When senior servant Feng saw Gu Jiao, she hurriedly bowed and greeted. Eldest young Mississippi Gu Jiao looked behind her and asked, Where's the madam? Didn't she come with you? This servant came to find the eldest young miss myself. The madam she. Senior servant Feng hesitated for a moment and finally said, The madam hasn't been well recently. She doesn't want the eldest young miss and the young master to worry, so she refuses to come over. Gu Jiao nodded in understanding. I'll go with you to the Marquis's estate. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. There are millions of novels to read for free. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114765552. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. Chapter 139. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Gu Jiao was a very straightforward person. What she accepted and what she did not accept, she would put it all on the table. She couldn't open the knot in her heart when she was young, so she couldn't live with Madame Yao calmly. However, this didn't mean that she would ignore Madame Yao. She still interacted with Madame Yao as a doctor. This visit was to treat Madame Yao's illness. Other people had nothing to do with her, so she didn't want to see them. Nanny Feng understood eldest Mrs. Temper and knew that she wouldn't visit old Madame Gu or other people in the residence. In order to avoid gossip, Nanny Feng simply didn't mention that eldest Miss had returned to the residence. The servant guarding the door thought that Nanny Feng had only invited a doctor back to the residence. Gu Jiao sat in the carriage and entered the inner residence of the Lord Protector's estate. The first courtyard she saw was Zhengming Courtyard. Nanny Feng said that it was the former madam's courtyard. Even though the former madam had passed away many years ago, it was still empty. Occasionally, The heir would go there to reminisce about the former madam. Madam's courtyard is over there. Nanny Fong pointed to the end of the path. It's so far away? Gu Jiao said. Nanny Fong sighed. Yes, but wasn't it far away? Madam's status in the residence was awkward. How could old Madame Gu let her live in a courtyard that was in a good location? Concubine Ling's courtyard was close and closest to Marquis Gu's courtyard. In fact, whenever Marquis Gu went to Madame Yao's courtyard, he would pass by Concubine Ling's courtyard. In order to let Concubine Ling be favored, old Madame Gu had schemed. Unfortunately, even if Marquis Gu passed by Concubine Ling's door every day, he wouldn't enter her room. That's Concubine Ling's courtyard. Nanny Fong pointed to a courtyard. Gu Jiao glanced through the window. It was a refreshing and elegant scene with pavilions, terraces, and withered flowers everywhere. Gu Jiao didn't care too much. She was just a concubine. It wasn't worth it. The carriage stopped in front of Madame Yao's courtyard. Nanny Fong went to get a stool for Gu Jiao, but Gu Jiao jumped down. Nanny Fong was startled. Which noble young miss is so fierce? Is Madame inside? Gu Jiao asked. Ah yes. Nanny Fong regained her senses. She should be in the warm room right now. The winter in the manor isn't this cold. Madame isn't used to it and stays in the warm room all day long. Gu Jiao followed Nanny Fong to the warm room. The warm room was indeed warmer than the outside, but it was still a little stuffy. Yao Shi's eyes were closed as she lay on a rattan chair in the warm room. Hearing the sound of the door opening, she waved her hand without thinking and weakly said, I already said that I won't eat. You can all leave. There was no response for a long time. She realized that something was wrong and turned to look at the door. When she saw the familiar figure, her dim eyes instantly brightened. Jiao Jiao. She hurriedly sat up from the rattan chair and nervously and helplessly tidied her hair and clothes. It was as if she didn't want to lose her image in front of her daughter. Gu Jiao didn't care about this. She walked over and came to Yao Shi's side. Is Madame well? Yao Shi glanced at Nanny Fong, and Nanny Fong pretended to be deaf and mute and left. Yao Shi helplessly sighed. I'm fine. Nanny Fong made a fuss over nothing and even called you to the manor. The Marquise manor wasn't a good place. She didn't care if people looked down on her, but she didn't want her daughter to suffer with them. Sit down. Yao Shi pulled her daughter's hand and sat down on a stool. Gu Jiao took down the small basket and put it on the small round table in front of her. Then she reached out her hand to Yao Shi. Let me take a look. Yao Shi handed her wrist to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao carefully checked her pulse and her expression was slightly dignified. Did you not take your medicine properly these past few days? Yao Shi said embarrassedly. I forgot to take it once or twice. Was it once or twice? Gu Jiao asked. Gu Jiao was very strict when it came to treating patients. Yao Shi carefully thought for a moment and said, twice. Are you sure there's no more? Gu Jiao looked into her eyes. I'm sure. Yao Shi nodded. The first time was when she came back from Baishui Alley. She had just learned that Gu Yan was being bullied by Gu Qinglin. She rushed to Gu Qinglin's courtyard and caused a ruckus. Perhaps she was too tired from the ruckus, but when she came back, she fell asleep. That night, she didn't take her medicine. The next morning, she overslept and forgot to take her medicine. It was only these 2 times and no more. What's wrong? Yao Shi asked. Gu Jiao said truthfully. Your pulse isn't very good. If you only forgot twice, then it shouldn't be a problem with the medicine. It should be because you were too agitated. Yao Shi also felt it. Her illness was clearly almost cured, but that day, she couldn't control her emotions and almost died together with Gu Qinglin. If it wasn't for Gu Changqing taking her dagger, she would have killed Gu Qinglin and hanged herself. Speaking of which, the dagger was still in Gu Changqing's hands. He knew her motive, but she didn't know why he didn't make things difficult for her. Yao Shi immediately thought of many things. Gu Jiao could see that she was thinking more than before, so she said to her, perhaps you've developed a resistance to the medicine. I'll give you 2 different medicines. Yao Shi said, all right. Gu Jiao hadn't opened the medicine box in a long time. The last time she opened it was when she was suturing that man. At that time, she wasn't of marriageable age. However, She vaguely remembered that the medicine box contained a new antidepressant. Gu Jiao no longer deliberately hid the medicine box from Yao Shi. Yao Shi occasionally saw the things inside and felt it was strange, but she just thought it was because she didn't know enough and didn't suspect anything. Gu Jiao took out the antidepressant and told Yao Shi how to take it. In the future, don't forget to take your medicine. Yao Shi shook her head and said, I won't. At that time, she was so angry that she lost her mind. But after she sobered up, she felt a lingering fear. If she really died with Gu Qinglin, she would never be able to see her 2 children again. Jiao Jiao and Yan, or would also be like the 3 brothers, becoming motherless children. How could she treat the siblings like that? Gu Jiao accompanied Yao Shi and chatted for a while. Then she watched Yao Shi take the medicine. One of the medicines had a calming effect. Yao Shi leaned against the rattan chair and fell asleep not long after. Gu Jiao took a blanket and covered her with it. Hearing that there was no movement inside, Nurse Fang gently pushed the door and entered. She looked at the sleeping Yao Shi and whispered to Gu Jiao, Is the madam asleep? Gu Jiao nodded and got up to leave the room. Nurse Fang also followed her out and closed the door. Eldest miss, how is the madam's condition? Gu Jiao said, Her condition has relapsed. It's similar to when she was in the mountain villa. Nurse Fang said in fear, Is it that serious? Gu Jiao said, It's not as serious as it was at the beginning. Nurse Fang's expression softened and she lamented. After the madam came back, her mood wasn't very good. She just endured it until that day when she went to Bai Shui Alley and learned that the young master was being bullied. The madam completely exploded and ran to the 3rd young master's courtyard to cause a scene. The madam even brought a dagger. At that time the madam said, Don't live anymore. If we die together. This servant was really scared. Fortunately, nothing happened otherwise. Gu Jiao didn't know that there was such a thing. From Nurse Fang's description, Yao Shi had completely lost her mind at that moment. It wasn't strange that Yao Shi wanted to teach Gu Qinglin a lesson, but it was inconceivable that she wanted to kill Gu Qinglin and die with him. The former was the anger of a mother, and the latter was the suicide of a depressed patient. Yao Shi had been treated steadily for so long, and had only stopped taking medicine twice. It shouldn't be like this. What has the madam been eating recently? Gu Jiao began to ask about Yao Shi's diet in detail. Nurse Fang explained everything in detail. Ever since the incident with Nurse Fang, this servant has paid special attention to the madam's diet. Is there any breakfast left? Show me the card. Gu Jiao said. There is. The madam doesn't have a good appetite. She ate a little and then stopped eating. It's all behind the green screen cabinet. Nurse Fang went to bring over Yao Shi's breakfast. Gu Jiao checked it one by one. Nurse Fang said, Is there a problem? Gu Jiao shook her head. No, take me to the madam's bedroom. Okay. Nurse Fang took Gu Jiao to Yao Shi's room. Gu Jiao checked every corner, including the incense, soap and rouge. There's no problem, she said. Was she thinking too much? Gu Jiao asked again. Does the madam have a close relationship with anyone? Nurse Fang shook her head. No, the madam doesn't go out of the residence. When she goes out, it's to visit the eldest miss and the young master. The marquis used to come often, but recently, the Ministry of Works has been busy, so the marquis doesn't come back for several days. Gu Jiao touched her chin. Nurse Fang still had lingering fears about the poisoning of Yao Shi in the farmstead. Eldest miss, are you suspecting that the madam has been harmed? Gu Jiao pondered for a moment and said, From the current investigation, there is no relevant evidence. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold wind rustled past. It was mixed with a few snowflakes and a faint fragrance that slowly drifted over. Gu Jiao looked in the direction of the fragrance. What's on the other side of the wall? Nurse Fang said, It's the greenhouse. When the weather is good, the door of the greenhouse will be open, and the entire courtyard can smell the fragrance of the flowers. It snowed yesterday, so the door was locked for fear that the flowers inside would freeze to death. Gu Jiao said lightly, I'll go to the greenhouse to take a look. Nurse Fang hesitated. What's the matter? Gu Jiao asked. Nurse Fang said awkwardly, The greenhouse belongs to the old madam. Ordinary people can't go in at will. Why don't I call the second miss over and let her bring the eldest miss in? Before she finished speaking, Gu Jiao had already climbed over the wall. Nurse Feng. Pine Crane Courtyard. Old Madame Gu leaned against the Arhut bed and sighed silently. She was not in a good mood recently, because her precious grandson was still locked up in the ancestral hall. The weather was cold, and there was a big snowfall last night. The ancestral hall had already become an ice cave. Her poor grandson had never suffered like this since he was young. Early in the morning, she sent someone to stop Gu Chongqing and ask him to release Gu Chengfeng. Gu Chongqing was released, but only Gu Chengfeng was released. Old Madame Gu was so angry that her head hurt. She only felt better after using some of the incense sent by concubine Ling, but she still felt stifled. They've grown up and their wings have hardened. They don't take me, their grandmother, seriously. How can that be? The heir is also trying to discipline the two young masters. The servant girl who was massaging her legs said fawningly. The old madam could criticize the heir, but the servants could not. Old Madame Gu said again. In the end, the first one to blame is their father. He could have married anyone else, but he had to marry a jinx. He himself is useless, and the child he gave birth to is also useless. He even bullied the son of the first wife. I think they want to rebel. Please calm down, the servant girl said. Old Madame Gu snorted. Even giving birth to a child can cause them to lose their way. If their mother was here, how could this happen? How could the servants dare to say anything? They could only brace themselves and listen. Old Madame Gu gritted her teeth and said, girls who grew up in the countryside have no manners. Crude and despicable. The servant girl lowered her head even more. After hearing so many secrets, would she be silenced? Don't let her fall into my hands, or else I will definitely teach her a lesson. Old Madame Gu got angrier as she spoke. Where's Yao? Call her here. After returning to the manor for so long, Tian claimed to be sick in her room every day, but she did not come to set the rules in front of her. Her trusted nanny advised. Why do you have to lower yourself to her level? She won't say anything even if you hit her with a stick. This was the truth. It was not that old Madame Gu had not set the rules for Yao, but no matter how old Madame Gu tried to torture her, she was like a soulless wooden person. Old Madame Gu felt as if she had punched cotton. In the end, old Madame Gu did not know whether Yao felt wronged or not, but she was furious. Has the peony in the greenhouse bloomed? Her trusted nanny asked the servant girl who was massaging old Madame Gu's legs. The servant girl said, it has bloomed. I went to take a look this morning. It's blooming very well. Old Madame Gu loved flowers, especially peonies. Gu Jinyu also loved peonies because of old Madame Gu's influence. Unfortunately, peonies were seasonal. In order to make them bloom in winter, old Madame Gu did not hesitate to spend a lot of money to build a glass roof greenhouse. The servant girl continued. I'll go and bring a few pots over for old Madame. Old Madame Gu waved her hand. It's so cold. Won't it freeze to death if you bring it out? Forget it. I'll go and take a look myself. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114762263. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 140. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. Old Madame Gu usually asked people to bring out the peonies for her to admire. She would only go to the greenhouse when the weather was too cold. There was actually some distance between the Pine Crane courtyard and the greenhouse, but the old lady was sitting in a sedan chair. It was comfortable without wind or rain. The sedan chair arrived outside the greenhouse very quickly. Old Madame Gu's confidant lifted the curtain and helped Old Madame Gu out of the sedan chair. Old Madame Gu noticed the wide wooden door and frowned. Who's looking after the greenhouse today? Aren't they afraid that the flowers inside will freeze to death by leaving the door open? Old Madame Gu pointed a servant in to take a look. The servant went in to take a look and came out to report, "I don't see the gardener." This made Old Madame Gu even angrier. If there was no gardener, it meant that the gardener had left his post without permission. She didn't know how long he had been gone, but the door was still open. Old Madame Gu asked someone to find the gardener as she entered the greenhouse with the help of Old Madame Gu's confidant. Gu Jiao had been squatting on the ground to observe the flowers earlier, and was blocked by the potted plants behind her. Now that she was done, she stood up. Old Madame Gu and Old Madame Gu's confidant were so shocked that their hearts trembled when they saw another person. "Who is it?" Old Madame Gu asked sternly. Gu Jiao turned around calmly. Gu Jiao did not dress like a rich young lady, nor did she look like a servant in the manner. She was not very old, about the same age as Gu Jinyu. Gu Jiao's right cheek was as beautiful as a fairy's, but there was a huge red birthmark on her left cheek. Old Madame Gu had never seen such a disfigured person. Old Madame Gu's eyebrows twitched. Where did this wild girl come from? How dare she come to the greenhouse of the Duke's manor? Old Madame Gu's confidant and maids were also very surprised. Yes, where did this wild girl come from? The Duke's manor was not a vegetable garden where outsiders could enter as they wished. Could she be a servant's child or relative? But even so, they could not barge into the old Madame's greenhouse. Gu Jiao sized up Old Madame Gu and guessed her identity. Gu Jiao looked at the white flower in her hand, and then looked at Old Master Gu, who looked like he was about to explode. Old Madame Gu was even more confused. What was this girl's reaction? Between revealing her identity and leaving, Gu Jiao chose the former. She walked towards Old Madame Gu. However, Old Madame Gu thought that she was going to assassinate her and shouted agitatedly, "Someone come quickly! Stop her!" Everyone rushed forward and reached out to grab Gu Jiao. Old Madame Gu kept retreating, trying to avoid this terrifying battlefield. Unfortunately, she was careless and accidentally bumped into the flower rack behind her. She lost her balance and fell under the flower rack. In a panic, she reached out to grab the flower rack in front of her in an attempt to stabilize herself. However, the flower rack was not strong enough and was pulled down by her in an instant. The dozens of potted plants on the flower rack fell down with a crash. Old Madame Gu did not even have time to cry out before she was buried under the ruins. Old Madame Gu's confidant gasped. She had not been paying attention for a while, so how did this happen? Everyone no longer cared about catching Gu Jiao and turned around to save Old Madame Gu. Gu Jiao spread her hands innocently. This time, it was not her fault. Everyone was in a panic. Gu Jiao shook her head and walked out of the greenhouse with a bouquet of small white flowers. Although the greenhouse and Madame Yao's courtyard were only separated by a wall, the road was very far and they had to take a detour. With great difficulty, old Madame Fong walked around half of the Marquis's estate and arrived at the greenhouse. When she saw Gu Jiao coming out of the greenhouse, she called out breathlessly, "Eldest, eldest." Before she could say anything, Gu Jiao gently jumped over the wall and returned to Madame Yao's courtyard. Old Madame Fong, who was doubting her life. By the time old Madame Fong walked around half of the Marquis's estate and returned to Madame Yao's courtyard, she felt that her old legs did not belong to her anymore. Old Madame Fong leaned on the pillar under the porch and gasped for breath. Gu Jiao sat on the stone bench in the courtyard and played with the bouquet of white flowers on the stone table in front of her. The flowers bloomed beautifully. They were pure white and elegant, and were out of this world. "Old Madame," she said, "who planted the flowers in the greenhouse?" Old Madame Fong waved her hand. She was too tired to speak. Gu Jiao did not rush her, and asked a servant to pour her a cup of hot tea. After drinking a few mouthfuls of hot tea, old Madame Fong finally recovered her breath. She staggered over to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said, "Sit down and talk." "Thank you, eldest Mississippi." Old Madame Fong was a person who attached great importance to rules, but she really couldn't stand it anymore. She sat down on the stone bench next to Gu Jiao and said, "The flowers in the greenhouse were planted by the gardeners in the estate. The gardeners planted whatever flowers old madam liked. Generally, most of them are peonies. There are also some peonies, clivia, and water lilies. There are also other flowers, like the begonia in the West Mansion. This servant didn't go to the greenhouse many times. I heard it from the servants in the estate." After a pause, old Madame Fong thought of something and added, "However, concubine Ling also knows how to plant flowers, and she's better at it than the gardeners. Now old madam let her take care of it." Gu Jiao narrowed her eyes. "I know. Where is she?" Old Madame Fong realized something and asked, "Eldest miss, why do you suddenly ask about this? Is there a problem with the greenhouse?" "There is a problem. As for who did it, we have to find out." Gu Jiao didn't think about whether it was intentional or not. She didn't believe that there were so many coincidences in the world. Otherwise, Madame Yao wouldn't have been poisoned in the farmstead. Someone thought that Madame Yao was an eyesore and wanted to get rid of her. Old Madame Fong naturally thought of this, but she didn't expect it to be related to the greenhouse. "This servant will go and ask around." Old Madame Fong went to ask about concubine Ling's whereabouts. In the end, concubine Ling wasn't in the estate at the moment. She went back to her maternal home to visit her relatives. "I'll come back another day." Gu Jiao took the flower. "Don't let Madame come out to be exposed to the wind for the next few days." "Yes." Old Madame Fong responded. Old Madame Fong glanced at Gu Jiao and felt a myriad of emotions in her heart. Perhaps she still couldn't stand some of eldest Miss's actions, but it was undeniable that when something happened to Madame, eldest Miss was the only one who could be relied on. On the other side, Gu Chongqing returned to the Lord Protector's estate. As soon as he entered the estate, he heard that something had happened to old Madame Gu. So he went to old Madame Gu's courtyard. Old Madame Gu had been hit by the flower pot quite badly. Her body was bruised and her head was even smashed. "What happened?" Gu Chongqing asked. Old Madame Gu's trusted servant said, "A wild girl came out of nowhere and bumped into old Madame, causing her to fall down in the greenhouse. Listen, she fell down on her own, but she had to blame it on someone else." Old Madame Gu pressed the gauze on her forehead and shouted angrily, "It must be a thief. Quickly go and catch her." If she was a thief, then she naturally had to be caught. Gu Chongqing ordered people to seal off the estate. Gu Jiao's carriage had just arrived at the entrance of the estate when it was stopped by a bodyguard. The bodyguard said, "There was a thief in the estate. The heir ordered that no one is allowed to enter or leave the estate freely." Old Madame Fong sternly said, "Look carefully. This is Madame's carriage. How could there be a thief in Madame's carriage?" The bodyguard said, "Excuse me." Gu Chongqing's personal guards only listened to his orders. Not to mention Madame Yao's carriage. Even if old Madame Gu's carriage came, they also couldn't pass. While the two sides were arguing, Gu Chongqing heard the commotion and walked over with a cold expression. Old Madame Fong bowed to him, "Heir." Gu Chongqing looked at the carriage behind her. "Madame wants to go out." Old Madame Fong opened her mouth and didn't know how to answer. Gu Jiao lifted the curtain of the carriage window and looked at the dignified Gu Chongqing. "I want to go out." Gu Chongqing's expression immediately froze. Ever since he found out that the young man was Gu Yan, he naturally guessed Gu Jiao's identity. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't shocked, but it would be pretentious to say that he was still shocked after so many days. He looked at Gu Jiao with a complicated gaze. Gu Jiao just found out that this person was actually her and Gu Yan's half-brother, Gu Chongqing. No wonder she dreamed of him. No wonder he didn't come for so many days. He should have guessed her and Gu Yan's identities. This was really, she didn't know how to put it. The two families were obviously not on good terms, but by a freak combination of factors they were strangely involved. He saved little Jing Kong, she saved him, and he saved Gu Yan. Gu Jiao calmly looked at her half-brother in front of her and held her chin with her small hand. "You won't let me go?" Gu Chongqing was slightly startled by her calm and unhurried tone. Didn't she have any burdens? About their identities? No. Gu Chongqing came back to his senses and said to the imperial bodyguard, "Let them go." Yes. The imperial bodyguard didn't ask any more questions and respectfully stepped aside. Nanny Fong was very puzzled. Looking at the eldest miss and the heir's attitude, it seemed like they knew each other. Gu Jiao put down the curtain. The carriage had just taken 2 steps when she suddenly stopped the carriage. She lifted the curtain again and threw out the bouquet of white flowers. Gu Chongqing subconsciously caught it. In fact, according to Gu Chongqing's previous training, he should avoid things thrown by others. Even he didn't understand what happened just now. He looked at Gu Jiao strangely. Gu Jiao didn't say anything else. She just pulled down the curtain and then left in the carriage. The people around were confused. What was going on? That girl gave a flower to the heir of their family? Gu Chongqing didn't think that she would give him flowers for no reason. He looked at the flowers in his hand and frowned, lost in thought. Gu Chongqing thought of what had happened in the greenhouse. Gu Chongqing called the gardener in the residence over. "Do you recognize this flower?" The gardener said, "It's a flower from the greenhouse." Gu Chongqing asked, "What kind of flower is it?" The gardener shook his head. "This servant doesn't know." Gu Chongqing said coldly, "You planted it yourself and you don't know?" The gardener was embarrassed. He wasn't a real gardener. He was just a servant who watched the greenhouse. He worked for the old gardener for a while. After the old gardener was dismissed, he became the new gardener. He said, "This servant didn't plant this flower. It was concubine Ling." Gu Chongqing asked the gardener to leave and called the residence doctor over. The residence doctor didn't know much about flowers. But if this wasn't a normal flower, but a medicine, then it was a different story. "Heir, this is a devil's snare. Be careful. It's poisonous." Gu Chongqing frowned. "It's poisonous?" The residence doctor said. "Yes, this flower is poisonous regardless of whether it's white or red. The seeds are the most poisonous, followed by the leaves. It can also be used in medicine. The mephisin we use is mainly made from this flower." "You'll be poisoned if you touch it?" Gu Chongqing asked. "That's not the case. Heir's body is strong. Not to mention touching it. Even eating it won't be a problem." The residence doctor said flatteringly. Did he mean that he would eat poison when he had nothing to do? The residence doctor continued. "But if it's someone with a weak body, just smelling the flower's fragrance will also affect them. They will either become excited or depressed." Gu Chongqing continued. "If it's someone who already thinks too much and often smells the flower's fragrance, will it worsen their condition?" The residence doctor nodded. "It will. If it's serious, it may cause hallucinations. Even worse, it's not uncommon for people to commit suicide or lose their rationality." Gu Chongqing thought of Yao Shi, who had almost died together with Gu Qinglin. He thoughtfully asked, "Is this flower common?" The residence doctor said, "It's common. It's found in the mountains. Unfortunately, most people don't recognize it. Just because it's pretty, they picked it and brought it home. In the end, they were poisoned." That night, concubine Ling returned to the residence. As soon as she entered, she saw Gu Chongqing's servant waiting for her. She asked, "What's the matter?" The servant said, "Concubine Ling, the heir is looking for you." Concubine Ling was stunned and smiled. "Okay, I know." Concubine Ling went to Gu Chongqing's courtyard. Gu Chongqing was practicing his sword in the courtyard. When he saw her, he quickly put away his sword and threw it to the servant. "Concubine Ling, come and sit," he said. The two of them sat down on the stone bench. A servant served tea and snacks. Gu Chongqing said, "This is a new snack made in the kitchen. I specially saved it for Concubine Ling. Concubine Ling, try it." Concubine Ling tasted it. "It tastes good." Gu Chongqing said, "Concubine Ling, if you like it, eat more. These flower cakes are all made with fresh flowers from the greenhouse." Concubine Ling smiled. "What kind of flower is it? It tastes so good." "It's this kind of flower." The servant smiled and took out a few datura flowers from behind him. Concubine Ling's expression changed, and she spat out the snack in her mouth. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114734427. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 141. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. After vomiting, Concubine Ling seemed to realize something. She smiled and covered her mouth with a handkerchief. I'm allergic to pollen. Gu Chongqing's expression didn't change. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you're allergic to pollen? You wouldn't have to take care of the greenhouse for grandmother if you did. Concubine Ling opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. Take it away, Gu Chongqing said to the servant. The servant took the plate of desserts away. Concubine Ling clearly saw the servant take a piece of dessert and put it into his mouth as he walked. Concubine Ling's eyelashes trembled. Concubine Ling, Gu Chongqing called her. Concubine Ling looked away and clenched her hands under her wide sleeves. She smiled and said, "What's wrong?" Gu Chongqing looked at her and said, "I just said that since you're allergic to pollen, I won't let you take care of grandmother's greenhouse in the future. I'll talk to grandmother." Concubine Ling lowered her eyes and smiled. "I'll be careful. It won't get in the way," Gu Chongqing said. "Why let you take the risk?" Concubine Ling smiled and looked at Gu Chongqing. "Since you said so, then fine. But if you can't do it, remember to tell me." "Okay." Gu Chongqing nodded slightly. Concubine Ling stood up. "It's getting late. You should rest. I'll go back." She had only taken a few steps when Gu Chongqing suddenly stopped her. "How's grandmother?" "Huh?" Concubine Ling was slightly surprised. She turned around and looked at Gu Chongqing with a smile. "She's in good health. But she misses her 3 little grandsons. If you have time, you can take Chengfeng and Chenglin back to see her." "I will," Gu Chongqing said. Concubine Ling didn't stay any longer. She turned and left the courtyard. On the way back, she passed by the greenhouse and saw a few servants and maids cleaning the greenhouse. "Pull out all the white flowers. Such a beautiful flower, it's a pity to pluck it." The old madam fell, and the crown prince took his anger out on these flowers. "That's enough. Don't talk about it anymore. Be careful not to spread it to the ears of the old madam and the heir." A chill ran down her spine. "Auntie, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? You don't look well," the maid beside her asked. Concubine Ling tightened her clothes and said in a trembling voice, "I'm fine. I'm fine." At night, there was another light shui in Beijing, but it was not as big as the previous night. The family closed the door and ate in the house. Gu Jiao made carrot and pork soup, tofu and mushroom soup, and a few side dishes. Little Jingkong got today's delicious meal: vegetarian meatballs, green pepper corn, fried rice with sausage, and shrimp egg soup. He had recently unlocked the skill of eating eggs, and he felt that it was delicious. Jiao Jiao ordered a bowl of lovely egg soup every day. His tableware was beautiful, and the delicacy of the plate arrangement was much better than the other dishes. He ate with relish, and he didn't forget to stick out his chest, shake his head, and send a smug expression to the others. Xiao Lulang started to tutor Lin Qingya again, so he didn't come back for lunch every day. He ate with little Jingkong at the Imperial College. Dinner became the most tidy part of the family every day. After dinner, the old madam, as the head of the family, would ask everyone how they were doing today. Little Jingkong reported for the longest time every time. He was a taciturn child in school, and was a very cold child. When he was at home, he was a little loudspeaker. He was lively, and he would only stop when Gu Jiao praised him. Today there was nothing special about everyone. When it was Gu Jiao's turn, Gu Jiao hesitated for a moment. then told them about Yao Shi. She didn't tell them that Yao Shi was framed in the Houfu, and that Yao Shi almost died together with Gu Qinglin. She only told them that she wanted to bring Yao Shi over. Everyone liked Yao Shi, so they didn't have any objections. The only problem was the room. Gu Yan expressed that he could move in with Gu Xiaoshan and give the room to Yao Shi. Gu Xiaoshan nodded. His bed was big enough for 2 people to sleep on. Tomorrow. I'll go with you? Xiao Lulang asked Gu Jiao. He was talking about going together to bring Yao Shi over to live with him. Gu Jiao nodded and asked him, You don't have classes tomorrow? Xiao Lulang. I have classes. Early the next morning, Gu Jiao went to the Houfu. Yao Shi had woken up early and was eating breakfast in a warm room. Seeing her daughter come over, she was very happy, but she was also a bit worried. She pulled her daughter's hand and sat down. Have you eaten yet? I've eaten. Gu Jiao said. I came to bring you out of the fu. Yao Shi was stunned. Gu Jiao paused and said, Are you willing to move out and live with us? Yao Shi wanted to hear these words even in her dreams. Even in her dreams, she wanted to live with her daughter. But now was not the time. Yao Shi reached out and touched her daughter's hair. You came so early just to bring me out of the fu? Gu Jiao nodded honestly. Yao Shi looked at her daughter dotingly. Jiao, have you truly accepted me? Gu Jiao was silent. She didn't know. The one she didn't accept was not Yao Shi, but her mother. But Yao Shi was her mother. Yao Shi held her daughter's hand and gently said, Jiao was worried about me, so she made a concession. I am very moved and very happy. But right now, I still cannot move out and live with Jiao. That concubine mother has a problem, Gu Jiao said. Sure enough, it was because she was worried about her. Yao Shi touched her daughter's face with relief and bitterness. Mother knows. Mother can handle it. Trust mother this once. If this was before knowing that she could move out with her daughter, she would have done it without hesitation. But she already knew about the situation in the greenhouse. She thought about it for an entire night, thinking about what she should do. Should she move out, or should she continue to stay in the manor? In the past, she did not fight because she felt that she could not see any hope. Her Yan could lose her life at any moment. She just wanted to protect Yan and stay away from the manor's affairs. But now she did not think like this. There were some people that just avoiding them was useless. The 3 of them, mother and children, even being alive was a sin. More importantly, she knew that her daughter had been whipped to save her. If it was not for her incompetence, her daughter would not have been whipped to save her. Her heart was bleeding. Her daughter had done too much for her. She could not always hide behind her daughter and become a burden. She hoped that one day, she would move out. Not because she had nowhere to go. She also hoped that one day, when she was gone, her daughter would remember her mother. It would not be a weak and pitiful mother who was besieged on all sides. It would be a mother that she could be proud of. This was the strength that her daughter gave her. If it was possible, mother would not want you to be so capable. It was because she was too incompetent that her daughter had no choice but to be strong. She could not go on like this. She wanted to protect her daughter. Gu Jiao could not understand this emotion, but Gu Jiao respected Yao Shi's choice. If you need anything, the family welcomes you at any time. After Gu Jiao left, Yao Shi changed her clothes and put on 2 golden hair ornaments. She went to Pine Crane Courtyard to pay respects to old Madame Gu. Hearing that Yao Shi came to pay respects to her, old Madame Gu almost choked to death. Who did you say came? The servant said, Madam, it's Madam. She came to pay respects to you. Ever since Yao Shi returned to the manor, she had not come to pay respects to old Madame Gu. What happened today? Did the sun rise from the west? Old Madame Gu was not in a good mood. Firstly, Gu Qinglin was still locked up in the ancestral hall. Secondly, she had been frightened by a thief and had an accident in the greenhouse. Unfortunately, her grandson had not caught the thief yet. She had never been so unlucky in her life. Hiss! Her whole body hurt. Let her wait outside. Tell her that I have not woken up yet. Yao Shi was ignored for almost an hour, but she did not complain at all. Old Madame Gu laughed. Oh, she's changed her personality. If this was 10 years ago, she would have left with a sullen face. In the end, old Madame Gu called her in. Not only did Yaoshi come, she also brought snacks that she had made herself. Old Madame Gu laughed coldly. What? Are you trying to poison me? Daughter-in-law does not dare. Yaoshi said respectfully. Even the tone of his voice had changed, revealing a hint of flattery and fawning. Old Madame Gu could not help but look at Yaoshi again. In the past, Yaoshi was as cold as she could be. She had an appearance of having no desires. Even old Madame Gu found her to be an eyesore. Today, she had changed her clothes and put in her hair ornament. She finally had some self-awareness as a noble lady. As a woman, she had to dress herself up beautifully and be submissive in front of her mother-in-law. Old Madame Gu no longer felt like she had punched cotton. It was rare for her to find Yaoshi more pleasing to the eye. Mother, please try it. Yaoshi presented the snacks with both hands. Her respectful appearance was full of praise. Old Madame Gu calmly picked it up and tasted it. Then old Madame Gu was stunned. She could not tell that this poor daughter-in-law's cooking was so good. It was much better than the chef in the manor. Yaoshi said respectfully. I also practiced for a long time before I dared to take it out to show filial piety to Mother. I hope Mother will not dislike it. Everyone in the room was so shocked that their jaws dropped. Did they hear wrongly? Did this really come out of the madam's mouth? Although Yaoshi did not come from a high family, she had a strong backbone. She was not willing to curry favor with old Madame Gu like concubine Ling. Old Madame Gu was very pleased with Yaoshi's attitude. In addition, she was injured and did not have a good appetite. Yaoshi's snacks were somewhat edible. Yaoshi said gently, Mother, let me give you a massage. The bruises on your body will be better after I massage them. Yenner often feels uncomfortable. I've massaged him before, and the imperial doctor praised me for doing a good job. Old Madame Gu's body was in great pain. Hearing her say this, she hesitated but still let her try. Yaoshi did not personally take care of Gu Yan all these years. She was indeed very good at massaging. She was much more professional than the young maidservants in the manor. The manor doctor could also massage, but after all, men and women should not touch each other. Old Madame Gu was very pleased. The places that Yaoshi massaged did not hurt as much. Of course, she felt comfortable. Yaoshi's appearance as a daughter-in-law finally gave her a sense of pride as a mother-in-law. Mother, I've thought about Lin Er's matter. Hearing that Yaoshi still dared to mention Gu Qinglin, old Madame Gu's face darkened. Gu Qinglin was beaten to this state by her daughter, and because of the matter with Gu Yan, he was locked up in the ancestral hall by her eldest son. She still had the face to mention it. Yaoshi said, when the heir returns to the manor tonight, I will go find him and ask him to release Lin Er. I will tell him that Yenner is fine now. He was indeed alive and kicking. On the other hand, Gu Qinglin was beaten so badly by Gu Jiao that he could not get up even now. Old Madame Gu's expression softened. It was true that she hated Yaoshi's child, but the most important thing now was to release her precious grandson. Gu Chongqing might not listen to the words of others. Since the person involved did not pursue the matter, Gu Chongqing could not continue to hold on to Gu Qinglin and not let him go. Old Madame Gu said warily, Why are you suddenly trying to curry favor with me? Yaoshi lowered her eyes and sighed. This daughter-in-law has thought it through. All these years, this daughter-in-law has not fulfilled her duty as a daughter-in-law and has troubled Mother. In the future, when Yan and Jiao Jiao grow up, they will have to rely on your protection. Sorry, Jiao Jiao, Mother will use you to show off her pitifulness first. No matter how hard one tried, flattery would never work. Old Madame Gu retracted her doubtful expression. It's good that you know your place. On the other hand, concubine Ling came to greet old Madame Gu. As soon as she entered the room, she saw the strange scene of old Madame Gu and Yaoshi getting along harmoniously. Concubine Ling's expression froze. She could not believe her eyes. She was about to go forward and greet them when Yaoshi turned around and gestured for her to keep quiet. Yaoshi slowly stood up and pulled the blanket over old Madame Gu. Then she gently lowered the curtain. Concubine Ling opened her mouth to speak but stopped. Old Madame Gu was asleep. She could not wake her up. I will come back later to serve Mother. Yaoshi said to the servants in the room and turned to leave. When she brushed past Concubine Ling, she said lightly, "Concubine Ling, why don't you leave too? Don't disturb mother's rest." Since she had already said so, how could Concubine Ling not leave? Concubine Ling felt that it was very strange. Yaoshi today seemed to be different from before. What exactly had changed? It seemed to be her clothes, but it also seemed to be her aura. Concubine Ling followed behind Yaoshi and left Pine Crane Courtyard. Just as they left the courtyard, Yaoshi suddenly turned around and raised her hand to slap Concubine Ling. With a loud slap, Concubine Ling was stunned. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all the novels that can't be found online here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428286/114730979. HTML Genius remembers the website address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile version reading website. Chapter 142. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that cannot be found online will be available here. Anyone who had even the slightest contact with Yaoshi would not believe that Yaoshi would do such a violent thing. Yaoshi had a serious illness and depression. When she went crazy, she might lose her mind, but that was a different matter. However, the current Yaoshi was very clear-headed. Her emotions were also very calm. The slap she gave Concubine Mother Ling was a slap with a purpose. Yaoshi's eyes were like torches as she said, "This slap is for you. You have made my daughter worry." As a mother, the thing she did not want the most was not to be hurt. Rather, it was to be hurt in front of her child. She wanted to protect her child. She did not want their bodies to be hurt, nor did she want their hearts to be hurt. Concubine Mother Ling's mouth was bleeding from the slap. It could be seen just how much force Yaoshi had used in this slap. Concubine Mother Ling used her finger to wipe the corner of her mouth. She then looked at the blood on her fingertip and laughed at herself. "Madam, what are you saying? I do not understand." Yaoshi coldly said, "In front of me. Do you have the right to call me that?" Concubine Mother Ling's gaze became cold. It seemed that she could not be bothered to continue pretending. She coldly smiled and said, "Has Madam gone crazy? After serving the old Madam for an entire morning, you think that you are the head wife of the manor?" Yaoshi said with a stern expression, "I do not think so. I am the official wife of the Marquis Manor. You, on the other hand, believe that you are infallible, but in the end, you are just a concubine. Hitting you is setting the rules for you. If you have the guts, go and complain." Concubine Mother Ling smiled mockingly and said, "Does Madam believe that I do not dare?" Yaoshi looked into her eyes without blinking. "If you dare, I also dare. What you have done to me, you know best in your heart." For the first time, Concubine Mother Ling was unable to look at Yaoshi. She coldly snorted and looked away. "I do not understand Madam's words." Yaoshi stared at her face. "It's fine if you pretend to be deaf and mute. The days are long. I will let you see clearly that me not fighting with you is not because I cannot beat you. It's because I am too lazy to fight with you." Concubine Ling suddenly laughed. "Oh, you don't care about these things, do you? Status, fame, and fortune are all worldly possessions. This is what you said yourself, madam." Yaoshi took a step forward and stared at Concubine Mother Ling. "I do not want it, but if you want it, I will not give it to you." "You," Concubine Ling choked. It had to be said that Yaoshi's last words had hit Concubine Mother Ling's weak spot. The position of madam that Yaoshi did not care about was something she had always dreamed of. Marquis Gu's favor that Yaoshi did not care about was something she had always dreamed of grabbing. Even Yaoshi's appearance and Yaoshi's indifference to worldly affairs were things that Concubine Mother Ling could not obtain. Concubine Ling clenched her fists and began to change the topic. How noble can you be compared with me? Back then, my elder sister didn't despise your family's decline, nor did she despise your young age. She treated you as a close sister, but you stole her husband. Yaoshi did not believe that concubine Mother Ling did not understand the truth of the matter. She was infuriating her. Yaoshi would no longer be led by the nose like in the past. Yaoshi faintly smiled and said, "At least I managed to steal him. What about you? In the 10 years that I wasn't in the manor, you were unable to steal this man for a full 10 years. You only have this bit of ability." Yaoshi's words stabbed concubine Mother Ling's heart. Concubine Mother Ling was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She had never been in such a sorry state in front of Yaoshi. Compared to Yaoshi's words that stabbed her heart, that slap was nothing. Yaoshi saw that concubine Mother Ling had used up all of her fighting strength. She coldly glanced at her and proudly walked away. When she walked far away, concubine Mother Ling's maidservant finally dared to go forward and say with concern, "Concubine Mother, are you all right? Madam is too excessive. How could she hit you? Let's go tell the old madam, and have the old madam punish her." Concubine Mother Ling touched her swollen cheek and coldly said, "Just because of a slap? Good iron needs to be used on the blade." After Yaoshi returned to her courtyard, she didn't let any maidservants follow her, and went straight to her bedroom. As soon as she entered, she closed the door and fell to the ground as if she had lost all her strength. Midway through, Nanny Fong felt that something was wrong with her madam. After Yaoshi entered the room, she also pushed the door open and walked in. As a result, she saw Yaoshi sitting on the ground in a sorry state. So it wasn't that she wasn't afraid, she was just holding it in. Nanny Fong was Yaoshi's attendant. She was 10 years older than Yaoshi. When she was in the Yao Manor, she had served Yaoshi. It could be said that she had watched Yaoshi walk step by step to where she was today. She knew Yaoshi's personality very well. She didn't cause trouble, and was a little afraid of trouble. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been forced to move to the farmstead. When Yaoshi boasted to the eldest miss, Nanny Fong didn't have much hope. She only thought that she was just saying it. Who would have thought that she would rudely hit concubine Mother Ling? This was under the condition that she didn't have an illness. To be honest, Nanny Fong was quite surprised by this madam. "Nanny." Yaoshi looked at Nanny Fong with grievance. Nanny Fong laughed and knelt down to fix Yaoshi's hair ornament. "Madam did very well. Madam is very brave. In the future, just be like this and put on the airs of the main wife. If you're afraid, don't show it in front of others. Don't let those vile people look down on you. If we don't fight, others won't believe us. Since that's the case, then fight openly and let them understand how fierce we can be when we fight." Yaoshi's emotions calmed down little by little. She nodded. "I was naive in the past. I thought that if I didn't fight, they would let me and Yenner go. I won't be so stupid in the future." There were too many things to do in the Ministry of Works, so Marquis Gu couldn't return home last night. Tonight, he dragged his tired body back home. Without saying anything, he went to Yaoshi's room. It was so late, but Yaoshi didn't sleep. She even left a lamp in the room for him. Marquis Gu was moved. Sure enough, after living in the farmstead for more than half a year, his relationship with his madam was much better than before. Marquis Gu's tiredness was swept away. He opened the door with a refreshed expression. "Madam, I'm back." As soon as he finished speaking, a washing machine fell in front of him with a bang. Marquis Gu raised an eyebrow strangely. This is..." Yaoshi turned around and coldly looked at him. "I heard that you went to Jiaojiao." Marquis Gu's heart skipped a beat. He straightened his back and said, "Which bastard said that?" "Huang Zhong." Yaoshi faintly said. Huang Zhong slowly walked out from behind the pillar with his head drooped. Marquis Gu's expression immediately changed. "You traitor." Huang Zhong's head drooped even lower. What did it mean when the gods fought, the little devils suffered? This was it. "You created this mess yourself. Go clean it up yourself. I can't handle it anymore." Yaoshi had Huang Zhong leave. Marquis Gu approached Yaoshi and cleared his throat. He went to grab Yaoshi's hand, but his hand was slapped away by Yaoshi. Marquis Gu awkwardly said, "You're talking about that time at the farmstead, right? I didn't do it on purpose. I swear. At that time, I thought she was trying to harm you. Yaoshi said. How could she harm me? I am her mother. How is that not possible? I am her father. Yet she still beat me. And not just once. She even kicked me into the water, scooped me up, and hung me up a tree. It's so tragic. Even when I didn't do anything wrong, she would still beat me for no reason. It's like she was just playing with me. Marquis Gu thought of the beating he had received outside the county government during the provincial examination. Even now he still could not calm down. Marquis Gu did not say these words to Yaoshi. He was a man. He also wanted face, alright? Marquis Gu gently coughed and tugged at Yaoshi's sleeve. Alright, I was wrong. That time was my fault. I will never treat her like that again. The person you should be apologizing to is not me. Yaoshi pulled out her sleeve and turned around, not wanting to look at him. If Jiao Jiao cannot forgive you, then I will never forgive you in this lifetime. Marquis Gu looked at the washboard on the ground, feeling wronged. Wu, was it too late to kneel now? As for the matter of Yaoshi not moving to Baishui Lane, the entire family felt regretful. However, they were the same as Gu Jiao and respected Yaoshi's choice. After half a month of knocking and hammering, the medical center finally began to take shape. The medical center had a total of 2 floors. There was a backyard and a row of rooms in the back. Gu Jiao placed great importance on protecting the privacy of her patients. She did not set up all of her patients in the main hall like a normal medical center. The main hall was the counter, the consultation desk, and the pharmacy. The normal consultation rooms were on the first floor, and the patient rooms were on the second floor. The rooms in the back had not been put into use yet. Gu Jiao's idea was to build an operating room and a treatment room. Of course, this was all for later. What do you think our medical center should be called? In the main hall, the second boss asked Gu Jiao, who was flipping through the accounts. Gu Jiao turned a page. Anything is fine. You decide. The name did not matter. The most important thing was the doctor and the medicine. The doctor's medical skills needed to be high, and they needed to have medical ethics. The medicine needed to be of good quality, and the price needed to be fair. Her medical center was not only open for the rich. She needed to be honest with both the old and the young. What do you think of the Miracle Hands Hall? The second boss's tone was very casual as he asked. Gu Jiao made a sound of surprise. The Miracle Hands Hall is very good. The second boss's eyes spun. Then it's decided? Gu Jiao nodded. In. The second boss waved his large hand. Bring the plaque in. Miracle Hands Hall, Miracle Hands Hall. He had made up his mind to compete with Miracle Hands Hall. Gu Jiao shook her head. At this moment, the second boss was like a child who wanted to fight with others. The second boss was truly devoted to his medical center. Perhaps it was because he was born with a passion for this line of work. Otherwise, he would not have been oppressed by the Hu family to such an extent. He still did his best to run his medical center. After he was driven out of the Hu family, Clear Spring Town's medical center did not belong to him anymore. However, the connections he had left behind in the past were still there. After shopkeeper Wang received his messenger pigeon, he did not say anything and rushed to the capital. The old doctor originally wanted to come, but he was old and could not bear the torment. Thus he sent his disciple over. His disciple was also someone who could be trusted. Her medical skills were still somewhat inexperienced, but she had a good character and was hardworking and eager to learn. In addition, there was also a doctor that he had met in the capital. He had a disagreement with the second boss's stepbrother, and left Miracle Hands Hall in a fit of anger. He had also been invited over by the second boss. Everything had been prepared. They were just waiting for an auspicious day to open. The second boss flipped through the almanac. On the 25th, the city will open. This is the day. Coincidentally, the girls' school next door was also set to open on the 25th. The news of the girls' school had already spread. There were voices of praise among the people. And naturally there were voices of opposition. However, the imperial court was very good at creating momentum. After announcing that several famous talented women in the capital would be entering the girls' school, the voices of opposition weakened. There were 2 ways to enter the girls' school. One was to enter without an exam. Those who received this qualification were usually talented women who were already famous in the capital. For example, Zhuang Mengdai's older sister, Zhuang Yuxi, or the Marquis Fu's daughter, Gu Jinyu. The other way was to enter through an exam. Because of what had happened last time, Marquis Gu had not been allowed to step into Yao Shi's room for many days. It was impossible for him to apologize to that girl. He thought of another way to express his love for her daughter to Yao Shi. He entered the palace and asked to see Imperial concubine Shu. "Nyang Nyang, could you please help me get a spot to enter the girls' school?" Imperial concubine Shu heard this and was surprised. "Doesn't Jinyu already have a spot?" Marquis Gu rubbed his hands and said embarrassedly, "It's not for Jinyu, it's for Jiao Jiao." Imperial concubine Shu frowned. "Jiao Jiao? That girl who grew up in the countryside?" Marquis Gu nodded. Imperial concubine Shu had no feelings for that girl. She did not like Yao Shi's children to begin with. She had also grown up in the countryside. She had heard that she was ignorant and ugly. This kind of person would only embarrass the Marquis Fu. Imperial concubine Shu did not quite agree. Marquis Gu coaxed. "I've let this child down. She has been wandering among the commoners for many years and suffered so much. As her father, I have never doted on her for even a day. Now I can't even handle her schooling." Imperial concubine Shu did not believe that her brother really doted on that girl. If he really did, why would he wait until today to beg her? School was about to start. What was he doing so early? "Did Yao Shi let you come?" Imperial concubine Shu asked. No, definitely not." Marquis Gu shook his head like a rattledrum. If he said it wasn't, then it wasn't? Imperial concubine Shu did not believe it. But in the end he was her brother. Imperial concubine Shu still agreed. Imperial concubine Shu was not familiar with the crown princess. She directly went to find His Majesty. His Majesty did not say anything, and had someone go to the Eastern Palace to get an invitation for her. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even more quickly. Millions of novels to read for free. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428266/114697597. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 143. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. After Marquis Gu received the admission card, he directly asked Huang Zhong to send it to Gu Jiao. He had already thought about it. On the first day of the girls' school, he would take his wife to the girls' school and give her a big surprise. His wife saw his efforts for her daughter with her own eyes. She should believe his love for her daughter. Of course, he considered that the girl might not appreciate it. As smart as he was, he had already thought of a countermeasure. "Eldest miss," Marquis Gu said that as long as you agree to go to the girls' school, he will give you 500 taels of silver. In the medical center, Huang Zhong truthfully passed on Marquis Gu's words. Gu Jiao was working. When she heard this, she put down the herbs in her hands. "Are you sure?" Huang Zhong said, "I'm sure. I even brought the banknotes." Gu Jiao said, "Give the money with one hand and receive the admission card with the other." Huang Zhong. "Why does this sound a bit wrong?" Huang Zhong said seriously, "Eldest miss, you have to swear." Gu Jiao pointed her finger. "Okay, I swear, I agree to go to the girls' school." Huang Zhong nodded with satisfaction and gave the admission card and the banknotes to Gu Jiao. What Huang Zhong didn't know was that as soon as he left, Gu Jiao put up the admission card on the door of the medical center. "Admission card for sale, 100 taels of silver for one." The second boss opened his mouth in shock. "This also wants to be sold?" This also meant that before Huang Zhong arrived, someone had already sent an invitation to the school. This person was no other than Princeton, who Gu Jiao had met twice in the county. Princeton asked imperial concubine Zhuang for the admission card. He didn't even bear to give it to Zhuang Mengdai, and directly sent someone to send it to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao put it up for sale without saying anything. And it was already sold. Gu Jiao said nonchalantly, "Yes, sell it." "Why wouldn't I sell it?" "Then what did you two talk about just now?" The second boss was very clear that Gu Jiao would not go to the girls' school. Gu Jiao said, "He asked me to agree, and I've already agreed. Is there a problem?" The second boss's jaw dropped. So the main point was to agree to this segment? Weren't the girls going to the girls' school? This works. At the very least, the second master knew a little about the relationship between the father and daughter. He really sympathized with Marquis Gu now. "You've been tricked by your daughter so many times. Why don't you learn your lesson?" The person who came to buy the second card soon appeared. It was also an acquaintance, an unexpected acquaintance. "Do you really have the admission cards for the girls' school next door?" A young lady dressed in luxurious clothes walked in arrogantly. Xiao Liuzi felt that he couldn't receive this person, so he quickly called the second boss over. The second boss had never seen her before. Seeing that she was not dressed like an ordinary noble lady, he didn't dare to neglect her. He politely cupped his hands and said, "We have it here. Miss, do you want to buy it?" The young lady arrogantly asked, "How do I know if your admission cards are real or not?" The second boss smiled and said, "Miss, you look like a person with status. With such a big medical center opened here, the monk can run away, but the temple can't run away. If it's fake, you can just send people to smash my medical center." The young lady looked up at the brand new plaque above her head, and felt that the other party's words were not without reason. Their family's power was monstrous. If they really dared to deceive her, she would smash this shop and send everyone to jail. The young lady took out a 100-tael banknote. The second boss was about to take it in his hands. At this time, Xiao Liuzi hurriedly walked over and whispered something in the second boss's ear. The second boss's eyebrows jumped and his hand that was about to take the banknote stopped. "What's wrong?" the young lady asked. The second boss smiled and said, "The admission card. 200 taels. Didn't it say 100 taels? That was the previous price. You're still raising the price? Aya, are you buying or not? If you're not buying, then I'll buy." Behind the young lady came another person who wanted to buy the admission card. This person was not the medical center's shill, but was sincerely looking to buy. The young lady fiercely glared at her. "Who said I'm not buying? How much is it?" The second boss smiled and showed 2 fingers. The young lady sucked in a breath of cold air. She was about to say that they were going to double the price when she saw the second boss show the remaining fingers. 500 taels. The second boss wanted to cry. Miss Gu, why are you cheating me like this? Aren't you afraid that this rich young lady will smash our medical center in anger?" The young lady was really angry. "Do you believe that I won't smash your shop? If you can't afford it, then get out of the way." "I'll buy," the domineering woman behind her said. 500 taels could buy an admission card to a women's school. Although it was painful to be able to gather together with all the talented women in the capital, for people like them who could not pass the exam, it was the only way out. "Who said I can't afford it?" The young lady clenched her teeth and took out 4 banknotes from her purse. She used the sky-high price of 500 taels to buy the admission card that her brother had asked for. The second boss looked at the 500 taels in his hand and felt that it was not real. He took the banknotes to the consultation room behind the medicine cabinet and asked Gu Jiao, "Who is that young lady? Do you know her?" Gu Jiao lightly said, "I know her. She is the Zhuang family's young lady, Zhuang Mengdai." The second boss sucked in a breath of cold air. Which Zhuang family? Could it be the imperial tutor's Zhuang family? Gu Jiao seriously thought for a moment. "Oh, it seems so." "What do you mean it seems so?" The second boss's legs went soft. "My young lady, do you know who you are cheating? That is the imperial tutor's granddaughter, the Empress Dowager's grandniece. Dongdong's fingers can crush our medical center. It's fine if we didn't hand over the admission card, but we raised the price and cheated them of 500 taels. The second boss grabbed his philtrum again and fell down magnificently. The news of the admission cards being sold quickly spread to the women's school. The main reason was that Zhuang Mengdai, this simple-minded person, said to everyone that she met that she also had an admission card. Even though she did not say that she had spent money to buy it, based on her uneducated reputation, everyone could guess that something was fishy. It was a coincidence that the crown princess was traveling incognito today. When she passed by the women's school on her way back, she heard the commotion. She had the female official go investigate. The female official returned to the carriage and reported, "Crown Princess, there are people openly selling admission cards for the women's school." There was such a thing? Even though the women's school was not opened by the Crown Princess, she was responsible for many things. For example, the admission cards for the women's school had been personally designed by her and given to the bureau of the Imperial Palace to order. She knew how many had been given out. She also knew who had been given out to, other than the ones that the Crown Prince had given out as a favor. "How many have been sold?" she asked. The female official said, "2. It was sold by that medical hall. I don't know where they got the cards, but they were sold just like that." The Crown Princess frowned. "Who bought them all?" The female official replied, "This servant did not see the first buyer with my own eyes, but from the description of the waiter, it seemed to be the Du family's fifth young Mississippi. This servant saw the second buyer. It was Miss Zhuang Mengdai. Zhuang Mengdai was famous for being an idiot in the capital. Even though she was the daughter of the Zhuang family, the crown princess did not give her an admission card. The Zhuang family was a scholarly family, so it was rare for them to have such an idiot. Her sister, Zhuang Yueshi, was a veritable talented woman. However, when the crown princess gave Zhuang Yueshi an admission card, some people once guessed that Zhuang Yueshi would give the card to her sister and enter the school herself. It seemed that the relationship between these two sisters was not as harmonious as outsiders guessed. The palace maid suddenly said, "Strange, Crown Princess, didn't noble consort Zhuang ask you for an admission card? She didn't ask for it for Zhuang Mengdai?" The Crown Princess shook her head slightly. "I'm not sure." The palace maid sighed. "And that Du family's fifth young miss, I'm afraid she will annoy the third princess consort again." The third princess consort's surname was Du, and Du family's fifth young miss was her biological sister. The third prince was from the eldest prince's line, and did not get along with the crown prince. The third princess consort and the crown princess had always been at odds with each other. In fact, the third princess consort was also a talented woman in the capital. Her zither skills were the best in the capital, but it was not enough for the crown princess. It was said that the crown princess had seen the real Fuxi zither when she went on a diplomatic mission to the state of Liang when she was young. Just this point alone was enough to make the third princess consort jealous for a long time. And the third princess consort's biological sister was the crown princess's die-hard fan. Everyone inside the school knew that it was His Majesty's idea, but to outsiders, it was in the name of the crown princess. Naturally, the third princess consort would not allow her sister to promote the crown princess. It was impossible for Du Xiaoyan to take the exam, and the admission card could not be delivered to her. Du Xiaoyan was very worried, so when she saw Gu Jiao selling the admission card, she bought it without hesitation. The female official asked, "Do you want to get the card back?" This was because the school for women had just opened and everything was not standardized. Otherwise, who would dare to sell the admission card if it was the Imperial College? That person would be beaten with a plank, and would not be able to take the exam for the rest of their lives. The crown princess sighed faintly. Forget it. If they want to sell it, then sell it. The school for women is for women who really want to learn. Zhuang Mengdai did not care, but the female official felt sorry for fifth Miss Du. She will be beaten again. That's right. When the third princess consort found out that her biological sister had found someone to buy an admission card to the school for women, she was so angry that she went on a rampage. Disregarding her identity as the imperial consort, she rushed back to her maternal family that very night and ruthlessly taught Du Xiaoyan a lesson. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114693738. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 144. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Du Xiaoyan howled from the beating and ran around the room. Look at you, so crude. How are you an imperial consort? The crown prince consort won't be like you. You should learn from him. Little wench, you're rebelling. The third imperial consort angrily threw down her ruler and took off her shoe. She used the sole of her shoe to slap her younger sister. The person that the third imperial consort hated the most in this life was the crown prince consort. In reality, in terms of family background, the third imperial consort was stronger than the crown prince consort. The third imperial consort's mother was the legitimate daughter of Duke Luo's Fu. Of the 4 major families in the capital, Marquis Xianping Fu ranked first, followed by Duke Luo Fu. The crown prince consort's maternal family wasn't very powerful. She relied on her own talent to get to where she was today. The third imperial consort was the same age as the crown prince consort. She entered the palace as a study companion for the princesses. The two were compared almost from a young age. The crown prince consort was better than her in every aspect. Not only was she smarter and prettier than her, she was also more liked by the princes and princesses. The only thing that the third imperial consort was better at was the zither. But even this bit of limelight was completely stolen by the crown prince consort after she saw the real Fuxi zither. How could the third imperial consort not be jealous of her? However, the third imperial consort was engaged to the imperial family, while the woman who stole her limelight was only engaged to a young marquis. That little childhood friend was 3 years younger than her. In reality, the young Marquis of Zhao Du had a greater reputation in the capital than the third imperial consort. But no matter how great his reputation was, he was still a subject, while the third imperial consort was the monarch. The third imperial consort found a wonderful balance in her heart. Unfortunately, the young marquis died in a fire not long after. Her fiancé died before she married, so he had to die. She cursed him to death. The third imperial consort was waiting to see her archenemy make a fool of herself. Who knew that after the mourning period, she married the crown prince and successfully became her imperial sister-in-law. The crown prince consort was the future empress. She was just a consort that would be sent to a fief. Even more tragic was that she had to bow to her archenemy. That was what everyone in Beijing said. Ever since she was young, the crown princess has been more outstanding than the third princess consort. No wonder the crown princess is a head taller than her when she marries. The entire Jing city loved the crown princess. As long as the crown princess existed, no one would see the third imperial consort. She couldn't control other people, but she could at least control her biological sister. The third princess consort was still angry after beating her sister. She said fiercely, "If you dare to go to a girls' school, I will break your legs." Du Xiaoyan's stubborn temper was exactly the same as the third princess consort's. "Hit me. If you have the ability, then fight right now. Even if you break it, I'll crawl over you." The third princess consort was furious. She threw away her shoes and picked up the broom beside her. Seeing that her younger daughter was about to be beaten to death by her elder daughter, Mrs. Du hurried to mediate. "Well, you two sisters should stop arguing. Isn't it just studying? Just let her study. It's not like you don't know how much she loved studying since she was young." The third princess consort said angrily. "Does she love studying? She is trying to curry favor with the crown prince consort. Du Xiaoyan stared at Bird's nest hair and face full of bumps and snorted. Yes. I want to curry favor with her. Who told her to be so outstanding? She is proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy and painting. She is way better than you. The third princess consort had a good relationship with her maternal family, and never put on airs in front of them. Otherwise, Du Xiaoyan would have been dragged out and beaten to death 100 times for offending her superior like this. Shut up. Mrs. Du scolded her younger daughter fiercely. However, everyone knew that it was fine if she didn't get the invitation. But once she got it, she wouldn't give up going to a girls' school so easily. The third princess consort was so angry that she sat on the carriage back to the mansion with a dark face. The third prince's mansion was on Vermilion Bird Avenue, which was quite far from here. On the way back, the third princess consort was upset, and felt that the carriage was even more bumpy than usual. That stinky girl, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. Is there no one better than the crown prince consort in the world? I'm her biological sister. Look at how she is helping an outsider. As the third princess consort scolded, she felt that her stomach was hurting from anger. The two accompanying maids obediently sat on both sides of her, and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Say something. The third princess consort said with a frown. The two maids trembled and looked at each other. Maid Su said, But third princess consort, is it really okay for you to beat fifth miss like that? She's your biological sister. If this spreads out. What Maid Su really wanted to say was that your reputation is no longer as good as the crown prince consort's. If it gets any worse, there won't be any place to criticize you. The third princess consort gritted her teeth and said, Does she have any awareness of her biological sister? Which family's younger sister would always speak up for outsiders? I asked her to learn the guqin from me, but she refused and said that I can't play as well as the crown prince consort. What a joke. Can she understand? As soon as she finished speaking, the third princess consort felt that her stomach hurt even more. It was all because of that girl. The third princess consort held her stomach and frowned tightly. The two maids sensed that something was wrong. Maid Su asked, Master, are you okay? Ouch. The third princess consort couldn't help but groan. She rubbed her stomach and held onto the corner of the table, saying, Hurry back to the estate and slow down the carriage. The two maids were stunned. Did they want the carriage to be slow or fast? The third princess consort was in so much pain that she broke out in a cold sweat. She wanted nothing more than to return to the estate immediately, but with every violent jolt, she would hurt even more. Seeing that her face had turned pale, the two maids didn't know if she was angered by fifth miss or really felt uncomfortable somewhere. I'm not. The third princess consort was about to say that she was fine when she felt a sharp pain in her stomach. She lost her balance and fell straight onto the floor of the carriage. This frightened the two maids. Maid Su shouted, Stop the carriage. Stop the carriage now. The carriage driver stopped the carriage. Although the jolts were no longer jolting, the third princess consort's symptoms didn't ease at all. She was still in so much pain that she wanted to die. What should we do, Sister Su? Maid Lu asked with trepidation. Maid Su knelt beside the third princess consort. She was also frightened when she saw the other party rolling around in pain. The third princess consort probably couldn't hold on until they returned to the estate. She lifted the curtain and asked the carriage driver, Is there a clinic nearby? The carriage driver thought for a moment and said, The girls' school is just up ahead. I remember that there's a clinic next to the girls' school. Maid Su hurriedly said, Why aren't you going? Yes. The carriage driver drove the carriage to the clinic. Maid Su hurriedly jumped off the carriage. Doctor. Is there a doctor? The second boss walked out and said, Miss, our clinic hasn't opened yet. Are you? Inside the carriage, the third princess consort screamed in pain. The second boss's heart skipped a beat. He knew that it wasn't a minor illness, so it wasn't good to ask someone to find another clinic. He hurriedly went to the second floor and found Gu Jiao, who was cleaning the side room. There's a patient. It's a woman. Gu Jiao put down the broom, took off her overcoat, and went downstairs. Where's the doctor? Maid Su asked. This is the doctor. The second boss pointed at Gu Jiao and said, A female doctor? Maid Su frowned. There were doctors in Zhao country, so there were naturally female doctors. However, the female doctors' medical skills weren't as good as the doctors, so their status was very low. In the imperial palace, the female doctors were assistants to the imperial physicians. They couldn't treat the concubines alone. Maid Su said sternly, "How can a female doctor be enough? Call your doctor out." Gu Jiao wouldn't allow anyone to be fierce to her people. She stood in front of the second boss and said, "I'm the doctor. If you want to see, then see. If you don't, then get lost." Maid Su choked. Ah, the third princess consort was in even more pain. Maid Lu lifted the curtain and said in a choked voice, "Sister Su, hurry up and let her in. Third, Madam seems to be dying." Maid Su's heart skipped a beat. Gu Jiao got into the carriage. The sky was a bit dark, so there wasn't much light in the carriage. "Light all the oil lamps," she said. Female official Lu lit up all the spare oil lamps. Gu Jiao carefully looked at the third princess consort. She saw that she was holding the right side of her stomach. Gu Jiao knelt down and took away her hand. She found the lower right side of her stomach and pressed on the spot where the my point was. "Does it hurt here?" "Yes." The third princess consort was in so much pain that she almost fainted. Gu Jiao let go of her hand and said, "It's acute appendicitis. You need immediate surgery." Need what? Maid Lu didn't understand Gu Jiao's words. Gu Jiao looked at the third princess consort who was in pain and said seriously, "Surgery. I want to cut open your stomach and take out the inflamed appendix." Maid Lu was so shocked that she stuttered and stammered. You want to cut open the third madam's stomach?" The third princess consort looked at Gu Jiao with a pale face. She seemed to be waiting for her explanation. Gu Jiao looked into the third princess consort's eyes without blinking. "Your situation is very urgent. The medicine can't control it. If you don't do as I say, you will die soon." The terrible thing about acute appendicitis was that if it wasn't treated in time, it could cause perforation of the appendix and cause peritonitis. The death rate was very high. A trace of panic flashed through the third princess consort's eyes. "No." Maid Su got on the carriage and stood in front of the third princess consort. "You are just a little female doctor. How dare you try to cut open my madam's stomach? I think you are just an alarmist. Say it. How much money do you want?" "I'm not an alarmist. It's up to you whether you want to treat me or not." Gu Jiao finished speaking and got up to walk out. She had just walked a few steps when her wrist was caught by a cold hand. The third princess consort held it tightly. She almost used all her strength. "Can you really save me, madam?" The two female officers' faces changed color. Was the third princess consort for real? Was she really going to let this female doctor cut open her stomach? She was crazy. This female doctor was crazy. The third princess consort was also crazy. Maid Su said, "Madam, don't listen to her. I'll go get the imperial doctor now." Gu Jiao said calmly, "Go ahead." "No." The third princess consort held Gu Jiao's wrist tightly. She had seen this disease before. Before she got married, her wet nurse was in pain here. The pain was exactly the same as hers, and the symptoms were the same. She asked the imperial doctor to treat her, but the imperial doctor couldn't cure her. Her wet nurse was in so much pain that she died. She was going to die too. Maid Su said, "Madam, you can't." As a princess consort, she couldn't have a knife wound on her body. When she entered the palace, if there was a small flaw on her body, she would be eliminated. Although she was married now, she was still a princess consort. Her body didn't belong to her. It belonged to the third prince. Without the third prince's consent, she couldn't abuse her body at will. She was in so much pain that she couldn't speak, but Gu Jiao understood from her eyes. Gu Jiao carried the third princess consort down from the carriage. The two maids couldn't stop Gu Jiao. Maid Su said to the coachman, "Hurry back to the manor and inform His Highness." "Yes." The coachman rushed back to the manor without stopping. Gu Jiao carried the third princess consort into the side room and put her on the temporary operating table. The third princess consort looked at her in fear. Gu Jiao wasn't good at sensing her family's emotions, but she understood the patients. She said, "Don't worry. I'm confident. I've done many surgeries. I'm not an ordinary female doctor. My medical skills are very good. Your surgery isn't complicated, and it won't hurt. I'll give you anesthetics. You won't feel anything during the entire process." She said a lot in one breath to calm the patient's emotions. The third princess consort's eyes turned red. Not only was she afraid of death and pain, but she was also afraid of many things. Her life didn't belong to her. It belonged to the entire royal family. Her body didn't belong to her either. It belonged to the third prince. Without her husband's permission, she let others hurt her body. She would be reviled by others. Gu Jiao looked at her steadily. "Nothing is more important than your life. Your body is your own. You don't need anyone to make decisions for you. If you're criticized and reviled by others because of your treatment, then it's not your fault. It's the whole world's fault." The third princess consort burst into tears. The surgery went smoothly. There was a new anesthetics in the small medicine box. The third princess consort reacted well to the anesthetics. She fell asleep during the surgery. When she woke up, she had changed into dry clothes and was lying on the bed in the side room. "Does it still hurt?" Gu Jiao asked. The third princess consort shook her head. "It didn't hurt that much. After the anesthetics wear off, the wound will hurt, but it should be tolerable," Gu Jiao said. Then she told her some things to pay attention to after the surgery. The third princess consort wasn't very popular in the capital. She didn't fit in. Others didn't like her, and she didn't like others either. But this little girl was different from most of the people she had met. The third princess consort opened her mouth weakly. "What's your name?" "Gu Jiao." The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1146611766. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.